This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is going on, everyone? Hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to a big Monday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We are packed today. Tons of hockey to get to. Moose weekend splitting 1-1 with Grand Rapids. We'll touch on that right off the bat. Dan Fink's going to join us a little later on before the team goes wheels up to Grand Rapids a little bit later on. And man, what a weekend in Stanley Cup Playoffs, starting off with a couple wild ones on Friday night right through till last night's thriller between Montreal and Tampa, and an absolutely insane start to the Colorado-Minnesota series. Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period is going to jump on with us. We'll hit that as well as what's been happening off the ice, including the hiring of a new general manager with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mike McIntyre is going to jump on the program with us. Hope you checked out his piece on Carson Carrolls on the weekend in the Winnipeg Free Press. Not only was it a phenomenal read from Mike, but the photos that they had from the farm of Carrolls, I thought was, just one of the best, really profile pieces we've seen in the sports section in a long time. So we'll hit that and more with Mike. As I mentioned, Dan Fink will jump on the program with the latest on the Moose before they hit the road. And Connor will jump on as well after that, get his thoughts on the Moose games on the weekend, as well as what's happening in and around the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it should be a good one. Great to have you all with us. Shout out to all you podcast listeners making us a part of your day. And welcome to everybody live in chat today. Hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. Lots to get to with Michael Remis. Just before we do that, a huge thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada. Hey, if you're a golf fan and you're betting at Coolbet, do not forget to go over to the promotions tab and opt in on the Cabot Links contest. They'll be sending a winner and his foursome, 3 more friends, out to play the greatest courses in Canada coming up as part of the RBC Challenge. So make sure you opt in on that. You'll get ballots for every time you bet at Coolbet, and someone and 3 buddies is going to be going on the golf trip of a lifetime, courtesy of our friends at Coolbet. Also want to thank Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, the Tri-Hospital Lottery. Get those tickets now at trihospitaldream.com. Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, our friends at Travel Manitoba, the Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Assiniboia Downs, Rolly's Transfer, the great people, Dr. Terry and his crew at St. Vital Dental Center. And of course, we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Welcome to the gang in chat, and welcome to you, Michael Remis. What's going on?
Hey, I'm in a good mood. It was a nice weekend. The weather's warming up. Had a great time at the Moose game Saturday. They couldn't get it done yesterday, so they're off to Grand Rapids. Stanley Cup Playoffs on to round 2. It was a great start last night with Wild Avalanche. We had a great game 7, and the draft lottery tomorrow. And I do see people are in a good mood with good memories of the Jets game 7 a year ago today.
Oh, yes.
So lots going on, Huss.
The anniversary of the Manitoba Miracle, indeed. And, strangely, we spent so much time talking to each other all week. I actually saw you twice on the weekend. Great to see you and the little guy out having a good time at the hockey game on Saturday afternoon. But we also got to meet up on Friday night out at the A in St. James. And I want to shout out the WSTers that joined us for what was an absolutely incredible performance by Tristan Rivers Music and his band. We had the full AC/DC set, half with Brian Johnson, half with Bon Scott, and then finishing up incredibly with both of them on the final song. And then the GNR tribute act that they put together was just phenomenal. Someone asked me on the weekend after I was telling them about the show, oh, are you going to AC/DC at the stadium? And I sat there for a minute and I said, you know what? I would way rather go watch Tristan's band do a tribute act to AC/DC at the A than I think I would pulling myself to Princess Auto Stadium to watch the real thing. But what a fun night that was, and great to see many of our crew pop out to support Tristan and have a great time.
Yeah, shout out to Tristan for his AC/DC tribute for those about to rock, and the GNR tribute, Rattlesnake Suitcase. Someone asked me about the GNR tribute. I said it had a lot of costume changes and guitar changes. It was a great night.
What did Tristan look better as? Angus Young or Slash?
Or Slash. I think Slash covers the face, so you think that it's actually him. But he was stomping along like he was Angus Young too, so he did a good job there.
Candace told me he never ever wears shorts anyway, so that was the one time we got a chance to see Tristan in the shorts. The costumes were amazing. There's the picture. Yes, there he is as Slash doing his thing. And I see Bridget in chat. Shout out to Bridget, queen of the dance floor out there on Friday night. But you know, Steph was there. A whole bunch of the crew was there. We had a bunch of our friends pop out as well. Reg Dunlop, Huss, would you go to see David Lee Roth? I would not cross the street for a free ticket to see David Lee Roth. I think that's a no on my side. Although I did hear, Remo, just before we get to more important topics, Sammy Hagar is doing, I think they're doing, I guess it's technically Sammy Hagar, but he's hooking up with basically the Van Hagar group, and they're doing a bunch of shows in Vegas or something like that.
So he's been doing this for a while with his band. They used to be called The Circle, but it's with Joe Satriani, Michael Anthony, and Jason Bonham, and they've been playing Vegas for a while at the Park MGM, and they do play Sammy Hagar songs and Van Halen songs. I would love to see that show. I bet he's like 80 and still giving her. Yeah, he is in incredible shape, great vocals. Sorry, he's 78, but he's still killing it. So if you're in Vegas, I would check that out for sure.
Anyway, Park MGM too as well. I mean, I don't know what the prices are right now, but I stayed in there right when it opened, when I was going to see Gary and go to the Golden Knights. You could not be in a better spot to go to a Knights game than the Park MGM. You basically just go out the door and walk across that little public area and get right into the building. Anyways, thanks to everyone that came out. Tristan, you guys killed it. Can't wait for the next show. You let us know. Remo, let's start off with the Moose. You know, obviously, when Fink will come on a little bit more and talk about it, but I cannot complain for a second about the battle and the will of that Moose team. Saturday's game, kind of feeling like Pittsburgh, Philly, and Montreal, Tampa. I mean, just 0-0 forever. Dom DiVincentis' performance through this series has been absolutely phenomenal. A 39-save shutout. Mason Shaw with the power play goal in just over 2 minutes remaining. And they got the win 1-0. Exactly the way you want to start a short series, where it's so important that you get your wins at home. And to be honest, yesterday was the same thing. I mean, the shot clock was far more evenly balanced. Both teams, you know, it was very tight. I mean, no one was ever really, you know, had a big lead in the shots in the game yesterday. It came down to a beautiful play by Grand Rapids to get that 1-0 lead in the second period. And to their credit, and their goaltender's credit, they did not give the Moose a lot. I mean, there were some good chances. I mean, you know, they put, was it 30, 33, 34 shots on net. But this is such a tight series. The goaltending has been absolutely brilliant. You got a 1-0 win, a 2-0 loss. It's now a best of 3 heading out to Grand Rapids. And I think the Moose have to feel good about just how tight they played the heavily favored Griffins. And they're going to a place where they actually are one of the few teams in the American Hockey League to win in Grand Rapids this year. So, I mean, they're certainly in this series, although it's going to be tough to grind 2 wins out of GR.
Yeah, how about Dominic DiVincentis in the playoffs so far? 4 games, 1.02 goals against average, .968 save percentage. Had the shutout on Saturday and had a lot of shots against, but he looked steady, he looked calm, didn't look out of position, and that carried forward to Sunday. The problem for the Moose in this series been scoring. You got 1 goal in 2 games, 0 goals at 5-on-5, and there were times, when they got, were getting outshot, outplayed by Grand Rapids, but they were able to push back and give it their own. And they got on Saturday, got the late power play, and Mason Shaw with the dramatic winner, putting the great crowd at Canada Life Center into a frenzy. Everyone's got their noisemakers. I got mine here. I was going hard after that one to get to my dinner plans, but it was a great finish there on Saturday. Unfortunately, on Sunday, couldn't quite, put the puck past the Grand Rapids netminder, Postava, who's been solid. So we'll see how it goes, but I think they're in pretty good position here after 2 games, but it's a tough task at hand against Grand Rapids, who was so good in the regular season.
Just on Postava for a minute, it was, I think, a surprise to everyone to see him in net and not former first-rounder Sebastian Cossa, who's really thought of as one of, if not the kind of top goaltending prospect right now outside of the National Hockey League. I mean, it's not like the guy, deserved he gave up 1 goal over the course of a 60-minute game. So you could certainly make the case that he was playing well and deserved to go in. I was stunned, though, that they kept Cossa on the bench for a second game right now. But he follows up the 1 goal against in game 1 with a shutout in game number 2. So, he was well worth it. And, man, I don't know what we can say about Dom DiVincentis. This past week has been incredible for Dom, and I think has probably opened up some eyes of a lot of people, maybe within the organization. Now, I have heard people saying, oh, well, he's going to be just make him the backup next year. Think about it is he's still a young goaltender. And, do you want him playing 20 games in a season? Or 22, like whatever. If Helly's going to play 60 games, which he inevitably will unless he's hurt, is that the best place for a goalie of the future to be? So I guess we'll see. I think it's more likely that the Winnipeg Jets, assuming Hellebuck's back, sign an Eric Comrie or someone else as a backup and give DiVincentis and Milic another year to carry the weight in the American Hockey League, with graduation for one of those guys coming up the following season to be under Helly. But Dom was the star of the show over the course of the weekend, and a lot of conversations away from the rink about, wow, just how well that he played. And, he continued it yesterday. Listen, the goals that went in, very, very difficult. The first one, absolutely no chance on that beautiful play by Grand Rapids. And, at a certain point, you got to be able to score a goal. Actually, let's just quickly hear from Mark Morrison. This is what the Moose coach had to say before we get to the National Hockey League. This is 3, Remo. Here's what Mark had to say about the tough 2-0 loss at home in Game 2.
Yeah, I thought we were right there. I didn't. Our first period, I thought we took a couple of undisciplined penalties. They got one on the power play, and then we found a little bit of offense, but probably not as much as I would like. Probably have to get a little bit more in his eyes, in the crease, and a little bit dirtier than we were. Kind of played from the outside. But again, close game.
All right, now the bottom line is they got to figure out a way to score some more goals on the Grand Rapids Griffins. Here's a little bit more from Coach Morrison on what his team needs to do to generate some more offense when they hit the road to GR.
For us, it's been a struggle all year to maintain net frontage, get in his eyes, get in those dirty areas. We'll do it, and then we lay off. We want to try to make plays to score goals. It's been a struggle for us all year to make plays to score goals, so we like to push them to get dirty ones. This is a time where we have to get dirty ones, so we'll talk about it for the next couple of days, and I'm pretty sure we'll be spending some time in their crease.
Mark, just wanted to ask you about. Oh, sorry.
Flip side. You've only given up one 5-on-5 goal to the team that scored the second most goals in the AHL. What does that say about the way you've been able to defend in the first 2 games?
Yeah, it's the only way that we have a chance to beat these guys is to defend, and we've done a good job with that for the most part. I thought they had 1 or 2 too many chances in the slot today, but we'll clean that up and we'll go after them again. I mean, it's 1-1 here, and now we need a split in there.
All right, so there is Mark Morrison. We'll have Dan Fink join us later on in the program before the team goes wheels up to Michigan for games 3, 4, and 5. Schedule is as follows. Game 3 on Wednesday. Games 4 and 5. 4 will be played for sure on, is it Friday, Remo, or is it Saturday? Is it Saturday, Sunday?
I have the schedule right here. Game 4 is Friday at 6, and Game 5 Saturday at 6. So here's
so Wednesday, Friday, and if a Game 5 is necessary, it'll be on Saturday night at 6 p.m. at the Van Andel Arena. That was what was happening in Winnipeg. Meanwhile, the Stanley Cup playoff picture got whittled down a little bit on the weekend. We had the Vegas Golden Knights take out the Utah Mammoth to move on to take on the Anaheim Ducks, and the Buffalo Sabres took care of business in Boston, led by former Ice pest Zach Benson, who received a large dosage of lumber from Charlie McAvoy at the end as he smirked on his way to the bench as they eliminated the Bruins. And then last night, Remo, it was the Montreal Canadiens playoff voodoo on full display. The Habs register the least amount of shots in NHL history in a Game 7 with 9 and win 2-1. I feel for John Cooper, man. I mean, I don't know what he could have done in the Olympic game, in the Olympic gold medal game, to have his team prepared to get the performance out of them. They weren't able to beat Connor Hellebuck. And last night, playing the role of Connor Hellebuck against the Tampa Bay Lightning was Jakub Dobiš, who was absolutely brilliant. And shades of Steve Penny, Patrick Roy, Carey Price, their goaltender, stole a game on the road in Game 7, and now the Montreal Canadiens are moving on. And Tampa, incredibly, 4 straight years being bounced in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I kept thinking about what you said all last week. Montreal and the playoffs, weird things happen. Remember Montreal going to the Cup final in the COVID year, coming back on Toronto, sweeping the Winnipeg Jets. I remember Yaroslav Halak in 2010, that team's performance. And there was Dobiš outdueling Vasilevsky in a 7-game series. And part of me wonders, and you think about Tampa Bay losing 4 straight in the first round, and before that they lost in the Cup final. Remember when they won the Cup final and they laughed in the face of everyone, and Kucherov has the $13 million under the cap t-shirt? This is karma getting back to Tampa Bay, saying you laughed in everyone's face, you rubbed it in everyone. Well, you're never going to win a round again. Now, again, they made it to the Cup final, but that doesn't fit the narrative. 4 straight first-round knockouts, and that's really tough for John Cooper, for Brandon Hagel, lose gold medal and lose Game 7 in very similar fashion.
Hey, while we're talking about Kucherov,
yeah,
there was the legend of Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7. You know what Nikita Kucherov's name for Game 7 is? Mr. Invisible. 7 Game 7s for Kucherov, 0 points, which is such a stunning number for a guy that has won, 3 Art Rosses in the McDavid era? He has been an absolute bust in these big Game 7s in the past. And, he seemed to be pretty preoccupied with beaking the goalie and doing a bunch of other stuff last night. Was not able to score, and another long off season for Tampa, which really is incredible when you look at how good that team is and how they played. And I just have to say, and I know I've been gushing about Brandon Hagel for the last 2 weeks with what he's done in this series and how he was trying to drag his team to victory. His play on Slavkovsky at the end of the game when Slav was just about to ice the game with the empty netter, and the way that he worked and the save that he made with his stick, one of the greatest plays of competitiveness and desperation I can remember. That's a guy that probably deserved a better fate because he did everything for his team in this series. That was crazy, but yet it is Montreal and Buffalo dropping the puck in round 2. And by the way, for those of you that remember, that are old enough to remember the old Adams division, how about this run for the Buffalo Sabres, Remo? Boston Bruins, round 1. Montreal Canadiens, round 2. If they're fortunate enough to win, they'll likely play the former Hartford Whalers, the Carolina Hurricanes in round 3. And it wouldn't be surprising to anyone if the old Quebec Nordiques, the Colorado Avalanche, were waiting in the Stanley Cup final.
Wow, what a run that would be. And we have the round 2 bracket. It's now set. And how about this one, Huss? Only 2 teams from last year's round 2 are in round 2 this year. Pretty incredible stuff, the turnover, and that's been the story this season for me is the upstart teams, and you saw some mainstays in the playoffs bounce from round 1, Dallas, Edmonton, and then we saw Tampa last night, even if they haven't got out of the first round in 4 years. So this is going to be an awesome stuff. I don't know if unpredictable. It seems like Colorado's a very, very strong favorite here to take it all, but that's why they play the games, and again, tough for Tampa. Not only do they not score, but the go-ahead goal in the third period by Newhook, you couldn't reproduce that. Like if you tried 100
from behind
times,
the net.
Like off Vasilevsky and in. I blame
example number 55 of Montreal Canadiens playoff voodoo. That was the winning goal.
It's pretty crazy stuff that we witnessed. So, great game set. I don't know if it's as epic as the Game 7 that was a year ago today, Jets Blues, but it's certainly one that we'll be talking about for a long time.
Yeah, no doubt. So tonight we've got a couple of games. Game 2 between Philly and Carolina. Carolina thumped the Flyers pretty good in game number 1 on Saturday night. And then game number 1 between the Anaheim Ducks and the Vegas Golden Knights. And you mentioned Carolina's or the Avalanche are the favorites to win it all. It's actually a tie between the Hurricanes and the Avalanche. Cool bet they're both plus 195 right now. Then Vegas at 7-1, Habs 10, Buffalo 11, Minnesota 14. The Ducks and the Flyers. We should quickly mention that game last night, the nightcap. What an absolutely bizarre game between the Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild. We sit through all these 0-0 games all week and then get 15 in the nightcap on Sunday.
Yeah, and we barely saw any goals with the Moose. Playoffs 2 to have a game that ends with a 6-9 final score. Crazy. Yesterday I was like, well, Colorado up 3-0. This series not going to go very long. I guess Minnesota, they're screwed without their number 1 center, Joel Eriksson-Ek. It's not going to go well for them, but credit to Minnesota for continuing to battle and not only battle, Hassan, make it a respectable final score. We're able to tie it at 4-4 and then take a 5-4 lead, but then you had a 5-5, 6-5, 7-5. They made it 7-6, Minnesota, but it wasn't enough. And Minnesota can roll or can run with Colorado. I do think that injury, number 1 center, it's tough. But man, Quinn Hughes, fun to watch. Cale Makar as well. There's some serious star power in this series. And this is going to be the top one of this round.
First time in NHL history, playoff history, that a team had a 3-goal lead, lost it, and was trailing in the game, and then still ended up winning by 3. Just to give you an idea about how bananas that one was last night, if you missed it. We're going to talk about that, as well as the hiring of John Chayka in Toronto. Interested to get Dennis's take on that. Dennis Bernstein is going to join us in just a moment. But folks, You have 4 days and 23 hours to get your tickets for the Tri-Hospital Lottery to get in for the spring bonus. Go to tryhospitaldream.com and get your tickets now. You will be in for, of course, the incredible grand prizes. The Dream Home Package, one of 6, worth $1.7 million or $1.35 million tax-free cash. But the spring bonus is worth over $58,000, and the deadline is this Friday, May 8th. It's the first deadline. So if you get your tickets this week, you'll be in for literally everything that is offered out to winners in it. You can win a Subaru Crosstrek Hybrid and a paddleboards package valued at $48,000, a Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid and kayaks package valued at $47,000, a $40,000 Fair Connect travel voucher plus $5,000 cash or $40,000 cash, and 5 winners of a spring bonus shop of $2,000 at St. Vital Polo Park or the Out Collection, or $1,500 cash. You'll be in for the summer bonus, all of the early bird prizes, and of course, it's all in support of our 3 major hospitals: the Health Sciences Center, the St. Boniface Hospital, and the HSC Children's Hospital. Grab tickets in person at London Drugs or Red River Co-op locations, or get them online right now at tryhospitaldream.com. Big thanks to our friends over at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical for their support of WST. It's about that time. The seasons are changing. If you have plumbing issues, Clean Line, like they've done for so many years, has your back with 24/7 emergency services. Mark down the number 204-500-2001. Clean Line's got you covered morning, noon, and night. Of course, they are also the leader in residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services with the most trusted staff and over 40 years of fast responses, lasting results, and 24/7 emergency services across all of Winnipeg. Give them a call or check them out online at cleanline.ca. Got to shout out Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. We're done getting the batteries for the cars and trucks all winter. Now it's time to go out and have some fun. You're getting your ATV ready, boat, RV, you name it, motorcycles. Manitoba Battery has the best prices on batteries, period, guaranteed, beating the pants off the big box stores, and the best customer service as well. Pop by and see them on Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive, or shop online today, manitobabattery.com. They can deliver to you anywhere inside the perimeter. And just before we bring in Dennis, got to shout out the gang at Rollies. Connor and his family had a move on Friday, or was it Thursday? Had that amazing video that we did last week of him from the WST truck. Always hear great things from our listeners and customers that use Rollies for their moves. And of course, they do have a special offer for WST listeners. When you go to rollies.com, click on request an estimate, put in that promo code WST, let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved, and they'll turn it around with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that Rollies has been famous for decades. Rollies.com for all your moving needs. Ask for the WST truck and let them know that the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Dennis Bernstein of the fourth period joins us now. We are down to 8. Dennis, what's going on? How are you?
Let's see. The number 9 is in my head this morning. 9 shots on goal and 9 goals. 2 different games. So, yeah, I'm doing great.
What a bananas night last night in the NHL.
Crazy.
Listen, I want to get to a bunch of the kind of other topics around, but first off, just
Sure.
with your team, we saw what Colorado did to Minnesota last night. Kind of maybe made the Kings and how much they made the Avalanche work for it look good despite being swept. But what was the end of season like around Tinseltown as the Kings packed it up after getting that final playoff spot and, as most expected, not sticking around long for whoever was the opponent for Colorado in round 1?
Yeah, so it ended predictably with a thud, and I had them winning 1 game, and they probably could have won 1 game, but they led in the series, I think, for a little over 3 minutes. that shows you the disparity between a legitimate Stanley Cup contender and what the Kings have here in Los Angeles. So this has to be a transformational season for this team. You're losing Kopitar, so immediately you're going to have an issue at center. Quentin Byfield looks like he might be the guy down the stretch, the way he produced to be the number one center. But what they really need to be transformational is on defense. The CC Dumoulin pair, which I thought would work, really wasn't that effective. And they really don't have the puck-moving defenseman to make this team a better offensive team. So they're going to have to surround Panarin with a little bit more skill. So this has to be a season of transformation for LA. The season, if not, you can't keep going back to the same formula they have. And because they haven't won a playoff round since they won the Stanley Cup in 2014. That's 12 years. It's a long time. So we'll see what Kenny Holland has up his sleeve. Maybe DJ Smith gets the job. But the roster has to be flipped a little bit here because you can't keep going back to the same formula. It doesn't work in the playoffs. It barely worked in a regular season. So there has to be significant change here.
Very different story down the highway in the OC.
No.
The Ducks eliminating the Oilers. Just thoughts on that win. And, Anaheim going in as a big underdog again to take on the Vegas Golden Knights starting tonight.
Yeah, well, without disrespecting what the Ducks did to the Oilers, there was only one team they could play with that profile, that the way the Ducks play, and win, and that was Edmonton. They don't have a goaltender. They don't defend well. They couldn't deal with their speed. This is a very different. Now, they could do this against Vegas. You got me convinced then. Then they could go to a cup final, to be honest with you, because the experience is there. You saw what Vegas did to a really good Utah team. Once games got deep, once they needed a goal, they always found a way. In Game 6, the Colton Sissons goal was huge for them in that Game 6. So we'll see. I picked Vegas to win this round. But, yeah, the thing about Anaheim, and I brought it up with Ken Holland, so I'll connect the two teams. I said, so, well, you have 5 first-round exits in a row. Now, Ken wasn't here for basically 4 of them. Like, so what's the argument to keep this core together as opposed to making significant changes, basically a rebuild? And Ken was very astute. He said, look, it's going to take 8 to 10 years if you go that route with no guarantee on the backside. So you can laud the Ducks for getting the great draft picks. And, obviously, Pat Verbeek did a great job in finding these kids because, Carlson wasn't consensus number 2. Becca Seneca was nodding his head like, what the hell, when he got drafted. So these weren't like Jackson Cone was just in the second round. But they hadn't made the playoffs in 7 years. So my retort to the Kings fans who want to rebuild in Los Angeles is you haven't won in 12 years. Now it's going to be 6 or 7 years before you get to. You're going to want to wait 20 years to wait a playoff round? I'm sorry. Kenny Holland's 70 years old. Hustler. He's not going into an 8-year rebuild here. So it's going to be really interesting to see. But credit to the Ducks. Like, they've built it here now. There are challenges for the Ducks as well because after this season's over, all the guys on the right side, all the 3 veterans, or all restricted free agents. So how are you going to build a defense? And that's the last part of this team that has to be built because the way they play defense now, look, if they win a Stanley Cup, kudos to them. But you get away with it against Edmonton. I don't think you get away with it against Vegas.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you on that one. You mentioned Lacombe. Like, it's one thing to, pick 2nd overall and 4th overall.
Sure?
I mean, you got to be really bad and, you get a high pick. That pick of Lacombe could be the pick that takes a team that has a lot of talent to a true contender. I mean, he has been so brilliant. Really throughout the year. I mean, there was a reason why he got the $9 million. Everyone's like, wait a second, who's this guy that's getting this money? I was saying to some guys on the show on Friday, coming out of game about their win, that when his extension kicks in next year, game number 1 of the regular season, it's going to be a bargain contract.
It's already value.
It's already surplus value for them. Just quickly on the Kings, just before we move on.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, they're losing Andrei Kopitar.
Yeah.
I mean, who is still a very important, like, how do they fill that hole, and what's the strategy for using that cap space?
You can't replace the player from a leadership standpoint, from a play standpoint. He was the focal point of their structure. Everything revolved around Kopitar from a structural standpoint, right? So you assume Byfield's going to be the number 1 center with Panarin and Kempe. They really need to re-sign Scott Laughton. Like, he's an ideal 3C for this team. He was great. He scored some goals down the stretch. He was a leader in the room. If they let him walk, I'm sorry, that's a mistake. And if you let him walk, you got to find 2 centers. I don't know how they do it. Do they put Alex Laferriere back in the middle as a stopgap? That's not going to help them contend. Kenny had to take a big swing here, but Hustle, you and I know you're not going to find that player in free agency because everybody's signed. You're going to have to make a big trade, and a trade that I don't really see happening. I think that's the way that Kenny's going to have to get this team to raise the level to get to true contender status. He's going to have to trade away the future and maybe some of the present to get players that can move the puck on defense and find a center who can facilitate and produce.
Dennis, the big news yesterday, and by the way, just a wild move by MLSE to drop their new general manager 3 hours before their other team, the Raptors, played in a Game 7 of the playoffs. Doesn't sound like there's a lot of flow between their corporate communications department, but I digress. John Chayka back in the league as the GM. What do you remember from Chayka's time back with the Coyotes in the very messy way he left and was, of course, suspended by Bettman? You surprised that he's back and in this role, one of the preeminent gigs in the league?
No, it's not a safe GM hire. You can't accuse MLSE of being safe here. It's a big swing. Yeah, and everybody uses the same word, messy, leaving Arizona, but that organization was screwed up. So maybe you give him a little bit of a mulligan. Here's the way it works, right? If he's going to manage around the edges, it's pointless. Like, he has to be empowered, Chayka, to go in and be ruthless and break up the core and make big moves, right? They didn't hire him to win the press conference. Like, the comfortable part of this team, the comfortable version of this team, it's dead. You can't be comfortable anymore in Toronto, right? So do they really have the stomach here for John Chayka to come in and make substantial change? Because it has to change. The formula's not working. It hasn't worked for forever, basically. So look, it's an out-of-the-box swing, right? He hasn't managed in the league since he left Arizona. There were some accusations about tampering already. So it's not starting off on the good foot. The one thing it balances, though, when you bring in Matt Sundin, you automatically, at least in the executive role, there's legitimacy, right? Because this is a stand-up guy. Maybe he changed the culture, whatever that means. It's a high-risk move by the Leafs, but I think they're at a point where they need to make a high-risk move because what's been done over the last decade just hasn't worked.
Remo, if you can, let's get this clip up from the presser. I'm not sure if you've heard this yet, Dennis. We haven't. I was waiting for you to come on.
Okay.
So Chayka gets introduced today with Keith Pelly and Matt Sundin, our pal Steve Simmons, with an absolute heater at the press conference. Listen to this, and we'll discuss after we play it.
Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun, for Keith. You talk about the due diligence that you did on John prior to hiring him and now hiring him. In the past, say 3 to 4 days, I have been in contact with about 20 people who work in the National Hockey League, many of whom are prominent names that we would all know. And of the 20 people I spoke to, one was supportive of John's hiring, and the other 19 thought it was a sham, to be perfectly honest. Words were used like con artist, liar, salesman. How did you come to a different conclusion that I was able to come to in a very short time?
I must have talked to different people.
That's it? Because I'm telling you, the hockey world today is astounded by this announcement.
Okay.
And your response to that?
Is we've conducted due diligence, and it was deep due diligence. It was a thorough process, and I'm quite happy with where we've landed.
As I said, it was quite the heater from Cy. I mean, is that an exaggeration of his reputation around the league, or? I mean, 19 of 20 calling him a con man and a salesman. I was just blown away. I couldn't wait to play the clip for obvious reasons. But just your thoughts?
Well, there is that story that Steve talked about when he was in Arizona, where he had 5 computers on his desk, but only one really worked. The other ones were just sham computers, with just I don't know what was on the face of the computer when you opened it up. But yeah, but he's a smart guy. And the other thing is. The other thing that you look at the memes that are going around the internet right now, like, what was he doing? He owns a bunch of Wendy's. So now there's all these hamburger memes with respect to John Chayka and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's an out-of-the-box, high-risk move. Like, we'll see if he's right. But that's something. And here's the thing. John's going to have to get used to that. because a little leak is never a little leak in Toronto. It might be in Arizona. A little leak turns into a 5-alarm fire very quickly. So all I could say is, MLSE, get used to it, right? Because if he makes a bad move, they're going to go back and say, look what you did. And yeah, it's a very high risk move. Are there probably more capable general managers than John Chaika? Yeah. But Pelly's running the show here. You could see it. He's going to be making all the decisions. I'm sure if John wants to make a big trade, he wanted a trade in Austin Matthews, he's going to have to go through Keith Pelly without question. So, yeah, it's welcome to Toronto. That's what that was. So I'm not surprised that Simmons lit him up like that.
Yeah, I'm just sitting and looking at Matt Sundin, who's sort of the guy that's kind of to come in to appease the fans, the history of the Leafs and all that. And he's like, whoa, what am I getting myself into right now? We obviously, when the Jets finished up, and we heard from Connor Hellebuck in particular, there was a lot of talk about, what he had to say. Was it a challenge to management? I mean, to be honest, he didn't say anything that wasn't true. They do need to go forward. They can't be complacent, especially where they're at. A lot of people talking about what we heard out of Edmonton on the weekend from their two superstars, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. What do you make of this Oilers situation right now? And can they move forward with Stan Bowman, who, in the opinion of many, has fumbled this in a massive way over the last couple of years, going into these 2 years with McDavid at 12.5 on the books? Yeah, well,
if Bowman's at risk, then Knoblauch has to be at risk, because the captain, the best player in the world, said we were average all year. We're an average team. Well, where's the accountability for that? Is it for Connor? Is it for Leon? It's for everybody. So is Bowman at risk? Yeah, because, Trent Frederick was healthy scratched the last 2 games of the series. He's got an 8-year contract. Right? These moves didn't work. Like the Tristan Jarry, what are you going to do with Tristan Jarry? You're going to bury him in the AHL next year?
The Jarry trade, honestly, Dennis, is going to be, when we compare it to others, it could be one of the worst trades in the last couple decades. I mean,
it doesn't make sense to buy him out. You're going to have to bury him in the AHL. Did you really think that Connor Ingram was going to win you a Stanley Cup? Is that what you thought? I don't know. I don't know where it goes from here. They're on the clock. The clock's ticking. It's ticking louder than it did 2 weeks ago when everybody thought that they would probably win in 5 or 6 against the Ducks. It exposed this team. It's too top-heavy. The two guys who are superstars are playing too much. You can't play 24 minutes every single night for 82 games and then think you're not going to be. And the injury factor as well. Yeah, Connor hurt his ankle, broke a bone in his foot or whatever, right? But it's going to have to change. You can't keep playing it. Now, the argument is, we played a lot of hockey for the last 3 years. We got injuries. We're off here. If our guys rest for 5 months, we can go back in and get to a cup final. Maybe, I don't know. You can't but it's not even getting to a cup final, Hustler. It's winning it all. That's the only thing make Connor satisfied. And then if it happens in the next 2 years, they can build a statue out in front of Rogers, like on 104th Street, and then he can go play somewhere else where he wants to play. Right? But yeah, you got to be concerned. Is Stan Bowman at risk? I think everybody's at risk because it didn't work. And you have your 2 best players saying that the team regressed. Well, what are you going to do to change it now? Is it a different style of play? That means probably a different coach, different players, maybe different general manager. I don't know if anything really changes here. I really don't. I think the big change would be next summer. Let's say they get knocked out in the first round again. Then it's 9-1-1, right? Then Connor's at 1 year. He's eligible for an extension. So I think that people might be overplaying this a little bit. And certainly I will say this. Do you not think that Connor McDavid gave his approval for certain moves by management over the last couple of years? I'll give you an example. You don't think they didn't talk to him when they wanted to bring Evander Kane in? I'm sure they did. I'm sure they're asking him for ideas on who they could trade for, right now, that would satisfy him or think that would make this team better. And not for nothing, let's be real. Evan Bouchard is not a Norris Trophy winner, despite what one guy says in Edmonton. And Ekholm looks like a much older player than he was a couple of years ago. So this team is not built to win in the NHL. And they're going to have to figure it out, because after you get past 97 and 29 and Zach Hyman and Bouchard, there's not a lot of quality on this team from a depth standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that blue line is a massive, massive issue. I mean, Darnell Nurse,
Yeah.
He's making over 9. The Wallman extension kicks in at 7
Kicks in now,
by 7.
right? It hasn't even kicked in.
They've got $33 million on the books for the next number of years on Bush, Nurse, Ekholm, and Wallman, and that to me is a
and you
is
can't
a
buy out
big-time
Nurse
problem.
because of the bonuses. It doesn't work. You're gonna have to find a trade for him to get a player of consequence. And who's going to take that player?
The answer to that is nobody, Dennis.
Yeah.
Unless they're taking a huge chunk of cash and holding on. I don't think that they really want to be doing that.
And they've traded away their first round pick, so it's a mess there. I don't think they'll get appreciably better short of Connor and Leon having otherworldly season next season. But again, you need the bottom 9 to produce. You need the bottom 4 defense to defend. You need a better goaltender. There's a lot of holes in that lineup, and it's being exposed right now.
Funny thing is, it wasn't a great series for McDavid. We all talked about maybe he was hurt. Lacombe was brilliant playing against him.
He was.
But, they were getting goals from Kapanen and Podkolzin and Dickinson earlier, and they still didn't win, which makes you think that maybe it's even bigger than that. Last night, Tampa. Tampa goes out. Maybe just thoughts on where they go from here. 4 straight seasons losing in the first round, which I think kind of caught a lot of people off guard. We just assumed that this is such a good team, consistent. They haven't been able to get past the first round since they won that cup. And Nikita Kucherov has 0 points in 7 career Game 7s. That's got to be a concern too.
And 1 goal in his last, 22 games in the playoff games? So that's a concern. I think the other concern is Braden Point, who always seems to be banged up. He's never 100%. He's not that big of a guy. So do they do something in center? Nick Paul was a healthy scratch at 1 or 2 games in this series. So it's a very competitive franchise with a very competitive GM and a super competitive coach who still just getting the taste out of his mouth from Milan. And then he's got to go back and look at this loss. And it was the same type of game. You dominated the game and you wound up losing. Right? Fassi was really good in Game 6. He wasn't great in 5. He shouldn't have given that goal to Texier. I think they'll make moves. I think they've got to move a player of consequence off this roster to create a different mix, because you're right. When you look at this team, you always think of John Cooper, Breezeball. They've won 2 Stanley Cups, but to your point, Hustler, they've lost 4 first rounds straight. So something would have to change, because look, they've been patient. They have a very, very good team. They have an excellent coach, but the mix just isn't working right now. So how do you change the mix? So I think there's going to be at least one big move in Tampa this season.
Hey, I don't know where your travel plans are on the old Where To Next Instagram post, but I hope it's going to either Buffalo or Montreal for the next round. I can't imagine that we're going to see a series, maybe in a long time, with a better atmosphere in both rinks. What's going on in Montreal is incredible. And Buffalo, they've been waiting 15 years for it. Just a thought on this round 2 series. Who's getting your nickel to move on to take on the winner of the Canes and Flyers?
Well, the emotional high is with Montreal, right? Coming off going in a row, beating a great team there. Buffalo has the better runway. They 3 wins in Boston, and that team had 29 home wins this season, right? I think can the Canadians survive that series, right? They got played out like it. And because 9 shots is not winning any more play. That's the one game you could win with 9 shots. So I got to favor with Buffalo. I think they're the deeper team. I think the better team. Is Alex Lyon going to be the guy? Can he go? Dobish was fantastic. He was arguably the MVP for that series for Montreal. I just think the depth of the Sabres is a little better. They're probably a little bit more fresh because they didn't have the stress that the Canadians did. Wouldn't be shot. There's not much separating these teams, right, Hustler? I just think the slight edge goes to Sabres coming in because I think they've had to clean her out to get to the second round.
Dennis, what do you and the fellas have cooking over at the 4th period right now as we get into round 2?
I'm putting my finishing touches on my final piece on the Kings and what needs to change here in Los Angeles. But we'll have full playoff coverage through the Stanley Cup final. Dave and I will be doing the pregame show for SiriusXM if it's in Buffalo or if it's in Montreal, wherever it might be. So that's what we're looking for with respect to the next 2 months.
Can't wait for it. Thanks so much for jumping on today, and enjoy the games tonight.
Always great being on WST, Hustler. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Right on. There's our guy, Dennis Bernstein. You can check out DB and all of their work with Dave and the gang over at the4thperiod.com. All right, Mike McIntyre is going to jump in with us coming up in just a bit. Well, spring is here, everybody, and it's time for a trip to your local Princess Auto. Already heard a couple people in chat saying it was about time for a Princess Auto trip. Of course, Princess Auto, founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg and now serving Canadians coast to coast, is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon. And as always, you can shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com to get those wheels turning on maybe some new things for that list. Speaking of spring, Derminator and the gang over at Chud's Power Sports have fully moved into spring and summer mode right now. Gone are the snow machines, and in are motorcycles, ATVs, boats, RVs, you name it. The gang at Chud's Power Sports in Gimli has it with the most experienced staff and the best deals in Manitoba. That's how they became the Power Sports Dealer of the Year. It is truly the Power Sports Superstore and worth your trip up to Gimli. But before you go, why don't you check out all the great spring deals they've got going on right now at chudspowersports.com, and then head up and see the gang at the corner of Highway 8 and 231 in Gimli. We're going to have a couple great power polls coming up this week for Chud's Power Sports as well as we get into the second round of the playoffs. Got to shout out my pal Dr. Terry and the great people at St. Vital Dental Center. It's maybe not the top of your list of dental to go to the dentist, but I will say this, you're not going to have a better dental experience than with the smiling faces over at St. Vital Dental Center. Beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building, and a full array of dental services for clients from 6 months to 99 plus, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. Dr. Terry and his team can do it all. So get over to stvitaldental.ca and let them know that the boys at WST sent you, and pop by and get all that grill work taken care of. And hey, just before we bring in Mike, another great night to get together with your gang at your local Boston Pizza for Stanley Cup playoff action. We got Canes Flyers and then Vegas Golden Knights and Ducks a little bit later on. I did some more sampling of the Boston Pizza playoff menu on the weekend. Might I suggest the MVP platter, which is 2 of the Pizza Flight pizzas, some wings, and the dill pickle spears. And they've got a wild new matzo stick creation as well, which we had, which was unbelievable. BP tonight and throughout the week for the games. And if you are staying at home, order online and get it hot and fresh to your door at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's bring Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press in. Mike, what's going on? How's the weekend?
Weekend was good. Huss spent kind of like you, I know, at the rink watching the Manitoba Moose. 2 really entertaining hockey games. Low scoring sometimes can be dull, but I think you would attest. You were there. Neither of those playoff games were dull at all. The intensity was ratcheted up. The crowd was great. Obviously, the Moose would have liked to get 2 out of 2, but my goodness, that was some great hockey. And it's just nice to be covering playoff hockey in May, even if I look outside my window and I see snowflakes falling. Doesn't feel like May, but it was a great environment in the rink. I enjoyed those 2 games immensely, and left the rink yesterday evening thinking, is this the last time I'm going to be inside Canada Life Center? We know the Jets season is over. It might take a modified version of the Manitoba Miracle for the Moose to go win 2 games in Grand Rapids. That's a very good hockey team. But I think they proved this weekend, Huss, that they can hang with the big boys if only they could get a little more finish around the net.
Oh, listen, they did as well. And by the way, I should mention this segment's brought to you by our friends at the Prairie Toyota dealers and the Toyota Tacoma, with the standard I-Force engine boasting an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. It's the most powerful Tacoma ever. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out in a cinch, and the available panoramic multi-terrain view monitor Gives you a live underfloor view to navigate even the toughest terrain with ease. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. Yeah, Mike, you make a great point. I mean, this is basically par for the course for this Moose team.
Yeah.
Very committed defensively, worked very hard, battled. I actually thought they played, really well in both games.
Yep.
Dom DiVincentis, first off, was absolutely brilliant. And it's kind of been fun talking about that development with fans over the course of the weekend. But as frustrating it was to not score, I think they have to feel like they go to Grand Rapids knowing that both of those games could have gone either way. And if they can continue that matchup playing tight, close games in the playoffs, they've got a chance to win.
Yeah, obviously, if you're the Moose, you don't want to get into a track meet, a Colorado, Minnesota wild-style track meet, because you're probably not going to win that, given the depth of proven scoring talent that Grand Rapids had. When I was doing some prep for the series late last week, I noticed that Grand Rapids had 5 guys with 20 or more goals. The Moose had 0. They had nobody crack the 20-goal mark. So, they've got depth, and it's a product, I guess, of the Detroit Red Wings being a pretty lousy organization for a lot of years. They've had a lot of high draft picks. A lot of these kids now are starting to come of age. And in fact, you look at the Grand Rapids lineup, and obviously they've been bolstered with the Red Wings not making the playoffs, kind of like the Jets or the Moose were bolstered with the Jets missing out, getting guys like Lambert and Yager back. But I'd say Grand Rapids has really reaped the rewards. They've got a lot of really good players in their pipeline. How that translates, I guess, to NHL success down the road remains to be seen. But yeah, the Moose, if they're going to be successful, they got to keep it tight, keep it low scoring. And, I was impressed by the commitment to defensive detail, the sacrifice guys are making. They don't chart stats the way we can, at least publicly, we can't see things like block shots. I would love to know what the block shots were, because it seemed like, especially guys like Tyrell Bauer, my goodness, that guy eats pucks for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I'll say this, I know a lot of the focus is obviously on what does all this maybe mean for the future of the Jets. If I had to make a list of guys who, in my eyes, if they were stocks, their stock would be rising. Obviously, Dom DiVincentis, and what he's done, not just over this past weekend, but in the 4 games that he's played now since he took the net over. It makes you wonder, is this guy closer than maybe we thought to being an NHL player, being a backup to Connor Hellebuck? And I know we haven't talked about this much in Winnipeg, but the idea of a future heir apparent in net, Connor Hellebuck's not getting younger, and obviously his comments after the end of this past season maybe had some people wondering if that process could potentially get accelerated. But, there's a lot about Dom DiVincentis' game that actually reminds me of Connor Hellebuck. He's big, he's boring, and I mean that in a positive way. There's not a lot of motion, herky-jerky motion. He's not swimming around in his crease. He's calm, he's cool. And, I think there's a lot there that has to be really intriguing. And that's not to overlook Thomas Milic. I know he had a bit of a tough game 1. Milic was really good down the stretch for the Moose. Obviously made his NHL debut and was pretty good in that game in Carolina that he played, where he got no support at all from his teammates. So, I'd say the stock of the Jets' future goaltending pipeline has risen. And then just to throw a few names out, Huss, like I said, Tyrell Bauer, I think his foot speed was maybe the concern. Like what I've seen of him, the way he can get around the ice, I believe that there's an NHL player there. Now, is it as a regular? Is it more as a depth guy? I think Tyrell Bauer, especially with Elias Salomonsson's injury, like this is a guy that could start the year with the Jets next fall.
It's funny you bring that up because, Mike, I mean, I'd been kind of talking for the last 3 months that, especially with the way the season has gone, I thought that Bauer had earned that opportunity, and Chevy said it as much.
Yeah.
Now, then again, he was in one of his epic, heavyweight title fights, and I think got a little dinged up at the worst possible time for him. He was out of the lineup, wasn't called up. But with the development of Salomonson and how he's played and how he continues to show that he's willing to do anything he can to help his team, I'm expecting Bauer to get more opportunity at training camp next year. I think he'll get more looks in the preseason. And albeit probably not part of the plan, but it would not at all surprise me that with Elias being out for the first month or two potentially of the season, to see Bauer actually get his first taste of the National Hockey League very early next season. Like, I think that has to be on the table, depending on what happens in the offseason with changes to the blue line.
I don't know if you saw the comments from Mark Morrison late last week, so they were really telling, where he said, there was a time where Tyrell Bauer would fight, and we wouldn't mind the fact that he was going to be in the penalty box for 5 minutes. But he said those days are gone now, where, now when he fights, we miss him. And in fact, we can't really afford to have him spending a ton of time in the penalty box because we need him. And while some may almost take that as, well, that's a bit of a backhanded compliment, I think it speaks to his development and, what he can do on the ice now. And he's not just a one-trick pony. He like I said, the fearless way he blocks shots. It was telling that Mark Morrison said he makes all of us play with more courage. That's high praise from a hockey coach.
I know a team that needs that.
Yeah. And depending what the Jets do in free agency or trades, like what's one of the things we kind of saw down the stretch, even when they were playing well, this team was getting pushed around a lot. And look at some of the big boy hockey being played right now. Like, the Jets outside of Adam Lowry and maybe a few other guys that can occasionally, Neil Pionk doesn't shy away from contact, that sort of thing. But they don't have a lot of heavy hitters per se. And if that's not something they really address in the offseason, well, they got a really heavy hitter in the pipeline. And if he's a guy that now, it's not where you're holding your breath when you put him out on the ice, thinking, well, if he doesn't fight, he's of no value to us. Those days, at least at the AHL level, are gone. And I think it's worth seeing, how he possibly translates to the NHL level. Just a couple other guys, Huss, that have really caught my eye. It's only been a 2-game sample, but my goodness, does Garrett Brown look solid?
I hoped you were going to go there.
Yeah,
first two pro games, and he was noticeably good and ready for this level.
There's a sense of calm to his game that it's actually shocking for a guy who's jumped right out of college into, again, playoff. This isn't regular season, and it's against arguably the best team in the American Hockey League. If not the best team, then the second best team. And the amount of smart, crafty little plays he made, nice exits, that sort of thing. I also love that he jumped up into the play a bunch. He's not afraid to do that. You know who he reminded me of, Haas? And I made this remark on Saturday in the press box. Again, not saying that he's at that level yet of the player, but he reminds me of Dylan Sandberg a lot. Like, there's a quietness to his game and a calmness to his game. And if that's what we're seeing just two games into his pro career, the Jets have to love what this player could potentially turn out to be. And another guy, and I think you and I maybe touched on him last time, I actually had a nice chat with him after the game yesterday, is Lucas Wallen. I mean, this is a kid who, he's 25. He actually turned 25 yesterday. It was his birthday. So this isn't some wide-eyed kid out of junior. He's 25. He's been playing, against men for a number of years in college. But he's got a motor that never stops. He's not the biggest guy, but he's pretty fearless out there. There's some offense, no question. He moves around the ice really well. I've just liked everything that I've seen about this player. And he's another guy that I think come training camp is going to be one to watch, certainly in a battle for depth position. And, you just wonder like how that fourth line potentially shakes out. Obviously, Cole Koepke, the Jets have re-signed him. But if the Jets want to get faster and a bit younger and, maybe a little more pop in the bottom six, like he's a guy that could very much be in the conversation.
Well, and here's another thing that I love about Wallen. I mean, he's always in the play. He's always around the puck. There's no shortage of, shots, which, listen, this team's really trying to generate offense. He's been putting them on net. The other thing, when we talk about the competitive level that you need to be at in the playoffs, he's been a real pain in the ass for Grand Rapids as well. Yeah. And we saw it at the, really in his first few games in the league. I mean, not shying away from anything, making a few not so good friends on the other team that are taking whacks on it. I mean, that's something that I really think is just missing from the Winnipeg Jets. Like, I watched the game on Friday, and I know Montreal and Tampa were playing, and it was just sort of like, okay, when's someone going to score? I was really locked into that Buffalo game.
Yep.
And have basically watched every minute of that series. The difference, and maybe the trade that changed it all for Buffalo, was actually the Paterka trade last year.
Josh Doan.
And they brought in Josh Doan, and he is playing with Zach Benson. We all remember Zach from his time with the Winnipeg Ice. I mean, Doan is phenomenal. I think he scored 25 this year, basically in a third-line role for the most part. And Benson, I mean, we all saw what Charlie McAvoy thought of what Benson's act at the end. Hello, in-person hearing with NHL player safety. I mean, not only is he getting under the skin of his opponents and creating chaos everywhere he goes, he's also killing them on the scoreboard. And to me, those two guys together on that line have been... And they're playing with Ryan McLeod. And let's not forget about the McLeod trade as well. A lot of people are going, another moronic move by Buffalo, trading Matt Savoy, a 7th overall pick. Listen, they have all of these picks. They needed guys to come in and contribute right now. And, another tip of the cap to former GM, Kevin in accounting. I'm not sure where Kevin's doing these days, but I mean, that group, that is a lot of the identity. And then you add in Peyton Krebs, another former Ice guy.
Yep.
That team kind of really seems like they're built for the fight of the playoffs. And listen, there's a lot of great talent on the Winnipeg Jets, and there's guys that can score and whatnot. But I think we saw throughout the year, never mind at the end after the Stanley and Shen trades, because of, the roles those guys played on the team, this team has so far to go in that category. And we're going to be talking about center and, who can make things happen in the regular season. But big picture, to compete at the playoffs, they need so much more bite in their game, team toughness, all of that. And there's a number of players that were playing this weekend for the Manitoba Moose that I think bring more to the table than a lot of current Winnipeg Jets.
Lucas Wallen had a great line yesterday, and this is almost refreshing to hear this from an athlete, us. He told me that he treats every day, every game, as a tryout. That's how he phrased it. And what a refreshing point of view, right? To you talk about not taking anything for granted, not getting comfortable, not getting complacent. To treat every game like a tryout, that's a pretty good way to go about your business. And I suspect he's going to get a tryout in September with the Winnipeg Jets. And again, we'll see how the summer shakes out and what they potentially bring in. But I got to think based on, and to be clear, folks don't realize this, like everybody in Jets management is at these games. They don't have, yes, there's other stuff going on behind the scenes, but they don't have to worry about watching the Jets right now. So Kevin Cheveldayoff and his management staff, the player development guys, the coaching staff, they've been at all the games. Like Connor Neal's been there, Marty Johnson, even the captain, Huss, Adam Lowry was at yesterday's game, sitting up in the press box as well. So he's still in town. one of the few guys that's still around. I know Mark Scheifele and Dylan DeMello are here as well because they've been skating regularly as they stay sharp for the World Championships. But yeah, I mean, I have to think these, management has got to be liking what they're seeing. And how great is it that, the Moose, after one playoff game, they were one loss away from it all being over, like that quickly, blink of an eye. They're going to now, at bare minimum, get, 6, 7 playoff games because there's at least 2 more coming against Grand Rapids. And, this is extremely valuable experience for these players. And I think a wealth of knowledge is being gleaned by management and coaches that is going to help everybody going forward.
Yeah, no, it was a fun weekend, and I know you said it could be the last game. I did think of that, and I made a point of having my last Jet Dog of the year at the second intermission. I'm like, well, just in case, I better do this. But as I say, I think they're still very much in this series. Like, is Grand Rapids the favorite? Yes. Are the games on the road? Absolutely. But the games have been so close. This could easily be a 2-0 lead for Winnipeg. They could also be 2-0 down.
Yep.
And a big part of that's the goaltending. You talked about DiVincentis. I mean, he has just been phenomenal after taking over for Thomas Milic. And I know there were some people suggesting that maybe they go with Milic yesterday in game 2. I mean, they hadn't played in a week. I know it's back-to-back, but the back-to-back in the American League and in the playoffs is very different than in the National Hockey League when you're playing 4 and 6 and 5 and 8.
Right. No travel.
He's got a 1.00 goals against average through 4 games. Very clear that he's made a big statement, that he's come along, and I think a lot of people that maybe hadn't seen him. Now, important to note that Milic was the team's MVP.
Yeah.
I think Milic played like 44 games to Dom's 37 or 38, but they were relatively close.
Right.
I've already had people going, well, I mean, he should be, look how good he is on the weekend. He should be the backup. And listen, were there an injury? I think they'd be confident going and giving an opportunity to do that. To me, though, Mike, and I wonder where you're at on this, he's still a very young netminder.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that the ideal spot for him is playing once every 10 days or 2 weeks behind Connor Hellebuck if everyone is healthy. I mean, to me, I think that they go the route that they were at this year, whether it's bringing Eric Comrie back or another veteran netminder for at least one more year and let those guys both play another 40, 50 games, depending on how things go. And at that point, graduate one of them to the backup role in the organization.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ideal scenario, right? When you're young, you got to play. And let's face it, when Connor Hellebuck is healthy, obviously that wasn't the case for a 3-week stretch this year where Eric Comrie all of a sudden had to jump into the starter's role. And we kind of saw Eric Comrie, a very good backup in the league, get exposed a little bit, right? The more he had to play, it was a bit of diminishing returns, I would suggest, for Eric Comrie. And, once he settled back into that backup role, he was excellent. Obviously Dom DiVincentis, and there's a bit of a job share that's been going on with the Manitoba Moose. But, you'd much prefer, I think, him to get, 35 to 40 games on the farm as opposed to like 10 to 12 going, all this time between starts. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it's Comrie. Maybe it'll be Laurent Brossoit. He's also a UFA this summer. I suspect one of Comrie or Brossoit will be the backup to Connor Hellebuck going into next season. But I suspect that they may be looking at a 1-year deal because, I think the Jets would want to clear a path in the not too distant future for one of these guys. And that's kind of been the hope, right? That one of DiVincentis or Milic, one of them would kind of grab the reins. One of them would cement themselves as maybe the guy on the farm. And then you open that door for them to become the backup with the idea that maybe eventually they transition into an even bigger role with the big club. So, yeah, I mean, goaltending has not had to be a huge focus of the Jets when you have a Connor Hellebuck. It's not like we go into drafts thinking, oh my goodness, the Jets they better shore up the goaltending position. But Connor Hellebuck's 33 now. We don't know what the future holds. I think more focus here in the present and certainly in the future is going to shift. That's a pretty important position. You better make sure that you've got a succession plan in place. That's for sure.
Hey, just before we go, did you hear Steve Simmons' question?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we played it earlier, so you've heard it. Yes. Mike, give me your Big J journalist heat rating for that question to Keith Pelly on the 1 to 10 journalism scale. How much of a heater was that in your mind?
That was a high, hard fastball just under the chin. That was a 9. I mean, if we're
might have hit him in the head.
Yeah, if there was nearly a beanball for sure. That was a Trey Savage, maybe bordering on Mason Miller, 103
yes.
mile an hour chin music. My goodness. Greg Wyshynski has a hilarious tweet where he compared like the Sonny Meta, the questions that Sonny Meta got in Jersey. But it's like, hey, Sonny, do you still have that jacket that you wore back then? And then he's got, John Chayka, like, why are you such a dumbass? Why are you a con and a fraud? There it is. Do you still have that starter jacket from when you grew up? Toronto media Chayka, everyone says you're a con man and a liar. Your thoughts? That was something. And, say this, I know Steve Simmons has his detractors. I don't always agree with things Steve has written or done, but you talk about a fearless journalist. Like he is not afraid to go, to use a hockey term, Huss, he's not afraid to go to the dirty areas. I know there'll be lots of people probably criticizing him for asking the question, but he's provided some soundbite gold. And Keith Pelly, like when he said to him, like, I've talked to 20 people and only one said, and then Keith Pelly just says, okay. And Simmons, the funniest moment when Simmons almost incredulously says, that's it. What a moment.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the fellows on Overdrive have to say once we're done today.
I'll say this. I am eagerly anticipating Steve Simmons' column. I can't wait to read what he writes out of this. It's probably going to, it's going to be a hit piece, but my goodness, it could be absolutely nuclear.
Toronto Sun tomorrow. There will be plutonium in the pages of that play tomorrow. Mike, great stuff. Hey, listen, Dan Fink's just about to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about the weekend.
Yeah.
I won't even ask this because he probably doesn't know, and if he did, he would probably keep it close to the vest. But Dom has been so good playing these 4 games in a row. I went into this series kind of thinking that Dom would get the first start, but inevitably, if they lost a game, they probably go back to Milic. But man, he's been so good. He has been the star of both games. Do you think they would just stay with Milic for another game, and if they lose, then stay with Dom for another game and then go to Milic, or might Milic get the first game in Grand Rapids and give Dom a few days to rest coming out of the weekend?
No, I think he's absolutely going to be in net, and in fact, we asked him about that yesterday, and well, he said, here's this quote, Huss. We'll have to see. We have a couple days off. I don't want to say who our goalie is playing the next game, but I guess you could probably figure that out if you were smart, he said to us. So I think he kind of told us without actually telling us.
Yeah, listen, it's a nice problem to have for Mark.
Yeah.
You may have had a plan for other guys, but if one guy just steps up and plays the way that it is, that's what it's all about. Anyways, we're going to have Dan jump in just a second. Mike, thanks so much for doing this. We'll catch up soon. You be well, and looking forward to that lottery tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. I'm sure Jets fans looking for their lucky rabbit's feet or whatever, 4-leaf clovers, whatever you can get your hands on.
Take care, pal.
Right.
There's Mike McIntyre. Hey, amazing tent sale this weekend over at Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway. Pop by there, tons of people, and the deals, my God. Keep your eyes open. Make sure to give them a follow on Royal Sports Winnipeg on Instagram for more details on more incredible tent sales throughout the year with 50% savings. They are ready to go, though. Great deals going into football, soccer, baseball season on cleats, and of course, all the summer sports in right now. The bike section is fully loaded up with so much selection. Spring is in, and it is in a big way in Royal Sports, coming off their big first tent sale of the year. 750 Pembina Highway. Get down there and tell them the boys at WST sent you. Speaking of spring and baseball, we are counting down the days, folks. 2 weeks and a day, 15 days till the Winnipeg Goldeyes home opener, Tuesday, May 19th. Get ready to get out there and see the Fish. They are over 80% sold for the game. And again, an amazing giveaway. We were all there last year, got those awesome Goldeyes jerseys. They're doing it again, a really sweet red version this year. Will be given out to the first 5,000 fans. So get to goldeyes.com and get your tickets. Every year, there's a lineup of 500 people that don't get into the fourth inning because they're showing up. It is so easy. Goldeyes.com. Get your tickets on your phone. No waiting. And you'll be in there in time to get one of those snazzy jerseys on May 19th for the Fish home opener. Also booking patio parties and more. Go to goldeyes.com for all the information on the upcoming season. But make plans to join us May 19th for the home opener. Looking forward a little later on this week to our first segment with our friends over at Travel Manitoba. Going to have some real cool stuff for the summer and some fun stuff on our social media as well with Michael and the gang over at Travel Manitoba. And if you are planning your next adventure looking ahead to the summer, start with Travel Manitoba. Whether you're searching for a road trip inspiration, hidden gems, or the latest festivals and event, everything you need is waiting for you at travelmanitoba.com. Looking for ideas on the go? Follow along on social media at Travel Manitoba for real-time inspiration, local tips, and can't-miss experiences from across the province. Or if you prefer a personal touch, stop by one of their visitor information centers at the Forks in Winnipeg. We will be doing a show down with the gang at Travel Manitoba, I believe the day of the Bomber home opener, June 11th. So lots of good stuff coming up with that. And of course, we're also counting down till next week, the opening of Assiniboia Downs, big press conference this week. And then Darren Dunn will join us a week from today to get ready for opening day at the track, which is a week Tuesday. How about that Kentucky Derby on the weekend? Amazing. Touch that a little bit later on. But asdowns.com, full live racing schedule. Of course, they're open 364 days a year with VLTs, great food, and more. But there's nothing like getting out and seeing them run live at the track. Day one of the 2026 season is next Tuesday, May 12th. All right, let's welcome in the voice of the Manitoba Moose, Dan Fink, coming off a very busy weekend where the Moose and Grand Rapids split games 1 and 2 of their best-of-5 playoff series. Finker, great work on the weekend. How are you?
Sorry, I just got attacked by my cat. Doing great. It was a lot of fun these past couple of weeks. A lot of work, obviously, with those playoff games coming at us fast and furious. But you know what? Winnipeg, Manitoba, you showed out. It was incredible crowds, and I mean, just special. I think. Like you look, obviously, the Moose go 3-2 over that stretch. They play some incredible games. There were some great moments. But I think what I took from a lot of that off the ice was just the passion of the fans in the stands and just the sheer energy that was coming down on the ice from the stands in Canada Life Center was unbelievable.
You know, it was. I mean, I had such a great time at both of those games. Saw so many people that I see at a lot of Jet games that have come out to come to see the prospects, and you know, we still had a lot of youth there bringing the energy. And listen, I mean, you look at the games, you're like, oh, geez, boring. One, not far from it. I mean, both of those games. I mean, the goaltending was just so brilliant. But game number 1, I thought, was just so crucial with the team hanging in there, the goalies going head-to-head, Dom making save after save after save, and they got the power play with about 4 minutes left in the game. Captain Mason Shaw, of all people, scores the goal. And I said to my friend that I was sitting with, I cannot wait to hear Dan Fink's call of this goal because he is losing his mind right now. And it did not disappoint when it came out afterwards, but it was sort of a cathartic moment for everyone there because you could feel the tension that comes with playoff hockey. Everyone knew this team was up against the best team in the Western Conference. And they went toe-to-toe with them, got that win. And to be honest, I thought yesterday was much more of the same. In fact, I think the shot total was a lot more even in game number 2. And yet it really is going to come down to one brilliant play, one great shot, because the Moose are very much in this series, despite being 1-1 heading back to Grand Rapids.
Yeah, and it really did show you the beauty of what a 0-0 game can be in hockey. I mean, sometimes you're going to get a grinder where just nothing's happening and there's shots are 15-15 and there's no chances and it's just not happening. That was one of those games where I just think the shots were tipped kind of one way there for Grand Rapids, but I think the actual grade A chances would have been much closer between the two teams when you think about the Moose just kind of misfiring on a few open net chances that they did have throughout that game. So that first game was just the tension in the building was great, but it wasn't one of those where the crowd kind of backs off and is just kind of sitting there chewing on their fingernails. They were into it the whole time. I think we saw a little bit more of that maybe in yesterday's game where Grand Rapids just did such a good job. They got that lead and just kind of shut things down as they are wont to do once they get a lead. I mean, that team won 35 of 36 games when leading after 40 minutes of play in the regular season. And you could see why, despite the Moose kind of getting back into it in the third until, of course, William Valinder gets that one to tick off a stick and into the net. So it was a very close couple of games. And the score lines don't necessarily show that from the regular season, but for a lot of those games between the Moose and Griffins, through 40 minutes, pretty tight, and then things would get away from the Moose. And I think what we saw over the weekend was the Moose not letting that happen. The goal happens in the first period. They don't let them get that second goal right away, something like that, or get that 2-goal lead in the second period in game 2. Of course, they do eventually get that insurance tally, but the Moose gave themselves a chance. They gave themselves an opportunity, and that's what winning game 1 did for them in this series. I think you would have loved to be up 2-0. Of course, it would have given you a great opportunity. That's a tough building to win one game, much less 2, Van Andel Arena. So the Moose certainly have their work cut out for them, but they get that first game. It means that you don't have to win 2 straight games. Who knows what happens in game 3, but right now the Moose can alternate wins and take the series. So getting that first game is so huge, and it just gives you that confidence, right? To know that, yeah, we're in this. All of what we've been saying all week is completely factual. We know we can run with this team. We know if we defend hard, we'll give ourselves a chance. And that's kind of how things played out. They just didn't get that one play that they needed in game 2.
You know, just before I hit you with this one, I want to put this one to the chat. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over a Waverly and McGillivray? For those of you that watch the games on the weekend, who was there a player or two that sort of stood out to you, or one that, like as we spoke with Mike, sort of raised his stock? Now, it goes without saying that Dom DiVincentis was the star of the weekend, so we can, and again, that goes without saying. Thoughts from you, Dan, on who stood out, and maybe let's start with Garrett Brown, who we saw for the first time, and I thought really acquitted himself well.
Yeah, I mean, for a guy getting into his first professional game, you know what? There were some moments, I think, there in the first period where in game 1 where, oh, that guy got here fast. Oh, I can't make that play at this level, in this space, at this time. But I think the key thing for me was he learned from those mistakes, and you didn't really see it a second time. So obviously a player that is learning quickly, is adapting to this new environment. I think I was impressed by his mobility for a guy that kind of is billed as a more defensive kind of defenseman, but he wasn't afraid to get up into the rush, saw him get down below the goal line offensively a couple of times, and certainly able to hustle around the ice. So tough luck for him on that second goal as he's trying to just shut down the play and it goes off his stick in the net. But you know what, for a guy, again, it's the first time since 2018 that we've seen a player make their pro debut in the Calder Cup playoffs for the Moose. That was Skylar McKenzie back in 2018, who scored the game-winning goal in his debut in Game 3 to give the Moose a 2-1 series lead against the Griffins. So who knows? But when you have a guy coming in, especially on the back end where it's so tough to play, especially to learn systems and to play against a team with as many offensive threats as the Griffins have, and you basically have to defend perfectly or they're going to make you pay. Really impressive to see him step in like he did.
For my money, I thought the best forward, and there was a bunch of guys. I mean, listen, Gustafson and Mason Shaw's playing hard. The guy that I think stood out to me the most yesterday when it came to offensive chances and generating was Walker Duehr. And Duehr has been a big part of this team. And I got to tell you, I think if he plays that similar game and gets the same amount of chances, we're probably not talking about a 0 beside the Moose. Just thoughts on his role right now and, what he might be able to do for this team that desperately needs some goal scoring when they head to GR.
Well, he's just such a cheat code, Huss. I mean, a guy that big shouldn't be able to move that fast. It's not fair. That shouldn't be allowed. I can't imagine being a defenseman, watching that guy come trucking down the wing, trying to bust wide, and then he lowers the shoulder. What do you do but throw your hands up and say, well, I guess I'm taking a penalty here. It really is impressive to see what he can do when he is all motor, go right to the net, and he just can carry guys. We saw him draw the penalty. I forget, honestly, whether it was game 1 or game 2, where he's trying to create a 2-on-1 and basically had the Grand Rapids defender just jumping on his back, clinging on for dear life. So when he is charged up and going that way, he is definitely an offensive threat and so important too that Shaw Gustafson line to round that out. I think he'd want that penalty from the first period in game 2 back where he took a bit of a retaliation there. And of course the Griffins score, but that's baseball, I guess. So for Walker, I mean, you saw the goal he scored against Milwaukee, just rolling into the slot, that little drag. He was a big part of the game-winning goal in game 1, getting away that quick one-timer. Blocked, yes, but finds its way right to Mason Shaw. So he's definitely a linchpin of this Moose offense. 17 goals, 17 assists for 34 points during the regular season. And if the Moose are going to have success, they need Walker Duehr to be a big part of it.
Yeah, and Lucas Maciel saying they need to get on that PP work in practice. I'd say the one thing that this team could really do to help their chances is generate a little bit more quality on the power play and bottom line convert, because when you're talking about a series that is this tight, that is this close, with two goaltenders playing at the level that we've seen from the two young men in the nets on the weekend, special teams could absolutely be the difference. And if the Moose want to get things done on the road, I would suggest they're going to need to have the better side of the special teams battle.
Well, it has been the difference so far, right? I mean, the Moose get their winner on a power play goal. The Griffins get their winner on a power play goal. And it wasn't until the final 5 minutes of that game 2 that we saw our first 5-on-5 goal find its way to the back of the net. So obviously the special teams have been important. That power play has been a source of frustration for the Moose all season long. And you can, I think, see why at times. And a lot of it, I think, comes from players just trying to do too much, trying to put that perfect pass into a spot that is probably covered. So the Moose, I think the times need to, it's this weird balance of quickening the pace of the puck and moving it around, but also finding that patience to look for the right seam or to back off and find that option. So that has been the frustration, and it is something that they have worked on endlessly. But to this point, hey, Pascal Vincent used to say, sometimes it's not how many you get, but when you get them. And despite the Moose struggling on the power play this season, their two biggest goals of the campaign have come on the power play.
Dan Fink is the play-by-play voice of the Moose. Game 3, 6 o'clock Wednesday. Game 4, 6 o'clock Friday. If necessary, Game 5, 6 o'clock Saturday. What's the schedule for the fellas? This was an off day, I imagine, or probably popped in for some video, meeting with the coaches. Fill us in on the travel plans. What's the next 48 hours looking like for you and the squad?
Yeah, they'll head out to Grand Rapids tomorrow morning, get in a skate once they get into town, which is always nice to have that skate on the other side of the travel day, shake things out, morning skate, and then they'll get back to it. So it'll be a 6 o'clock puck drop at Van Andel Arena with that Eastern time zone. So you can get things going with Christian O'Mell on the pregame show on 680 CJOB at 5:30. I'll chime in there as well before we drop the puck a little after 6, and you can catch those on AHL TV on Flow Hockey as well if you're looking for a more visual option. But definitely can follow along on the road. And then, of course, Game 4 coming up Friday. That as well will be 6 o'clock puck drop. We'll be right into that one. No pregame show on 680 CJOB. We will have the quick pregame show online on CJOB.com. I should probably confirm that. And of course, AHL TV on Flow Hockey. And we'll see if we're playing Saturday as well. So that's the beauty of the playoffs. Can't quite book in the schedule yet. So you were talking about the Fish home opener. I'm trying to figure out if maybe that's on the schedule for us next week or not. So, or in a couple weeks here.
Hey,
so
listen, it would be a great problem to have. For
Absolutely.
Winnipeg fans, if the Moose
Absolutely.
was still playing around the Fish home opener. Do you guys just go Minneapolis, Grand Rapids, or what's the route? Chicago?
Oh, we're taking the high life here this week. We got the charter going
Nice.
down. So yeah, that's certainly nice, especially since that can turn into a pretty long travel day getting to Grand Rapids. So a little bit of a boost there. So looking forward to that. It's always nice, and that of course it's big because again, that's what lets the Moose get in a skate tomorrow ahead of that game. So when you get that opportunity, that's obviously important, and it's a 2.5-hour flight instead of sitting around in airports the whole day. So that's big for the Moose, and that hopefully translates into a Game 3 win.
Well, listen, Dan, I know you'll be bringing it. We'll look forward to the call on Wednesday. You have a safe travels, and good luck to the fellas to get a couple wins and to get us some more playoff hockey in Winnipeg this spring. Be well.
Thanks a lot, Huss. Appreciate the support this week.
Hey, listen, we got you guys, and can't wait. Fingers crossed that we can do it again next week. There's Dan Fink on X at Daniel the Fink, the play-by-play voice of your Manitoba Moose. All right, Connor's going to jump in. I gotta get Connor's takes on the weekend and more. We will get to Cool Bet lines as well, but do want to mention that it is just about time to get going with another amazing fishing season at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. I think customers are going to be going up for the first time around May long weekend. I'm going to be there the last week in May. Cannot wait. If you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake is the spot. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality from the Aikens team and the Turin family might be even better. Go to aikenslake.com and get in touch on options and availability for the 2026 fishing season at Aikens Lake on all socials and aikenslake.com. Big shout out to Cam Young, who won on the weekend on the PGA Tour at the Cadillac Championship, staying clear of Scotty Scheffler as he tried to track him down on Sunday. We'll have much more PGAs coming up in just a couple weeks, but when we're talking golf, what's really important to those of us around here is courses are opening, including Breezy Bend, one of Winnipeg's top private courses. If you are thinking about a long-term golfing home for you and your family, get on breezybend.ca for more information right now. The course is looking as great as it ever has, with big-time improvements over the last number of years, heading into the hosting of the Manitoba Open last year. And great social nights, social programs, junior and women's programs as well. It really has it all at Breezy Bend. 895-7205 if you want more information, or breezybend.ca. All right, Connor's locked and loaded. First up, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug. Great to see the small cans of both generic and 1919 available for our enjoyment at the A on Friday. Those are available in vendors as well. Big shout out to Little Brown Jug. Connor's next.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, listen, before we get to the latest with the Lions and tonight's action in the NHL, let's bring in Connor Rabchak, who had a busy weekend. Well, a busy week, finishing up the week with the move and the amazing promo for Rollies. It's more special when you can do it with the WST truck. What's going on?
It was incredible. And, the truck is parked out front. As the move is happening, you see people walking by, looking at the logo, thinking, what is going on there, right? And and then people are like, what's this? What's Winnipeg Sports Talk? So it was great. The Rolly staff was super friendly, super efficient. It was a great move, zero complaints. It was an absolute blast. We were in and out of there, moved everything in one day. And then, Moose hockey over the weekend. It was a busy weekend for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just quick thoughts on the Moose. I mean, listen, Dom DiVincentis, incredible. And I'll be honest, I was really impressed with the way they fought. That Grand Rapids team is big. They are very, very good. And the Moose went toe-to-toe with them throughout 120 minutes. And looking forward to seeing what they can do on the road.
Yeah, it's nice to see the Moose hang with the Griffins, because we've seen the Griffins and we've been talking about them. When we mentioned the AHL throughout the year, their record was way ahead of everyone else's, and they finished as the top team in the Moose's conference. And the Moose are a big underdog in this series. That's just a fact. Grand Rapids is one of the best teams, second best in the entire AHL, first in their conference. So these are tight, close games, defensive battles. Both goaltenders have been awesome. You guys have talked on today's show a lot about Dom DiVincentis. I echo all of those thoughts. He, the big and boring style, he battles, and he really has been he's been the Moose best player and the reason why these games have been so close. But you look at the other side, Michael Postava for the Grand Rapids Griffins. And we were talking on Sunday Live, Huss, that we were shocked that, Kosa didn't get game one. And then lo and behold, Kosa didn't get game two either for Grand Rapids. But then you go and look at Postava's stats. In 25 games during the regular season for Grand Rapids, he had a .937 save percentage. And in the playoffs so far, he's got a .981 save percentage and a 0.5 goals against average. Obviously, he got the shutout in game two, and those are the only two games that he's played. So they're going to have to find a way to solve this guy, Michael Postava, because he is a big goaltender. He's making it look easy right now. And look, you got to get screens, tips. We've talked a lot about that the past couple of weeks from a Jets perspective. And you heard Mark Morrison in a clip you played earlier. They need to get more screens in front of him and make things difficult. And hey, if they could get the power play to chip in now and then, that would be a big help too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as we just talked with Dan, I mean, both winners were on the PP, and they have had some chances. You'd like to see them be able to generate a little bit more of that. But, I mean, the commitment to defense, the fight they've shown in this game, and these two games, has been a lot of fun. Let me just ask you, I mean, from kind of a looking ahead for a Jet perspective, we got a chance to see Garrett Brown for the first time. I thought he acquitted himself real well. Continue to be really impressed with Lucas Wallen. I think Walker Dewar was the best Moose player last night, certainly the most dangerous one. I mean, did any players sort of stand out to you? Got you thinking maybe a little bit more about training camp and the preseason and trying to make the club next year?
Yeah, I think you're bang on with those guys. And Garrett Brown was one that I was really keeping my eye on this weekend, because obviously he won the national championship with the University of Denver in the NCAA. And everything you hear coming out of the NCAA, whether it's prospects like Gavin McKenna going there or whether it's guys who have been there for years like Garrett Brown, is that it's a pro-style game. It helps players prepare better for when they make that leap to the pro game. And I thought Garrett Brown in his first two games against the number one team in the conference in the AHL, on the back end, playing third pair, but still, I thought he acquitted himself well. And I think that's a product of what the NCAA can do to help prepare players for the pro game. So I was impressed with him for sure. Lucas Wallen, I know you brought him up earlier. Every time I've watched the Moose, I've been very impressed with his skating and his motor. And I think I dropped the take on last Sunday Live, but I think we're going to be talking about him 13th forward, kind of like Parker Ford a few years ago when we get to September. But I want to give a shout out to Mason Shaw as well. He's scored the only goal for the Moose over the weekend on the power play, but outside of that as well, Love his motor, his compete. I think he exemplifies a lot of the leadership on the ice that you want to see out of the captain of the team. Hard on the forecheck, creating a lot of chances as well. So I thought Mason Shaw had a strong weekend. Obviously, the only one that scored the goal, but even outside of that goal, I thought he created a lot for the Manitoba Moose.
Yeah, no, he was right in there. And listen, I thought Yeager and Lambert both had their moments. I mean, Yeager had I think was that in the first game or the second game where he had that breakaway. Just a great save by Prostava, one of many. And you know what? Lambert was working hard. And listen, we talked a lot about winning that round and how it was important for the team. This Grand Rapids team is big, extremely big. They're having to earn every inch of ice and utilize their speed. Like, regardless of what happens in this series, playing in games like this, amazing experience for the Lamberts and the Jaegers, because it ain't getting any easier, as they well know once you get up to the big show.
That's why it was so important for the Moose to, I mean, if we even go back to training camp, for them to just be good this year, to make the playoffs, because obviously last year they were one of the worst teams in the AHL, if not the worst team. And they made all of these signings, the AHL type of deals, Phil DiGiuseppe, Walker Dewar. They brought all these guys in to insulate the young players so that they could play in games like this. So this experience is great. I thought Mike brought up a great point earlier on in the show when he said, look, they lost that first play-in game. Their season was on the brink already. Those two games that they won back-to-back over Milwaukee, great experience there to win a play-in series, get into the playoffs here against Grand Rapids. You're playing these tight defensive games where, like you said, Huss, every inch of ice is an absolute battle. It's a war. Grand Rapids wants to, you saw them at the end of game 2, especially kind of getting into the dirty stuff, the rough stuff, post whistle. They're trying to drag you into the alley and make it a big fight. Like, this is good for the Jaegers, the Barlows, and the Lamberts. It does suck that, Salamonson had the injury and he's not playing right now. Chibrikov had the surgery. He's not playing right now. That would be a great experience for those players as well. But you got to take it. And hey, now they go on the road playing against the top team. Like, again, this is still a good experience. Even if the Moose lose a couple games here, it's good for these young players to play in these pressure-filled games.
Guys like Fagemo, Shaw, Jad. Well, Jad's actually still in RFA. But also Walker Dewar, UFAs at the end of the season. Fagemo is because he's same as Ville Hainel, hasn't played enough games, so he's UFA Group 6 during his time in the league. I've got a lot of time for Walker Dewar, though. Just watching what he did. Like, I would love to see him come back, probably on a 2-way deal. But this gets to a bigger question of the Jets overall next season. You'd like to have some legitimate competition for spots. And if guys can come in and be the best players in camp, actually earn those spots, not just a week or 2 weeks until somebody that is, on a long-term deal or a big money deal comes back. And, we'll see how things shake out. But I do think there's a few players that aren't officially in the mix next year that have certainly deserved another look if they don't get a better opportunity elsewhere.
Yeah, and Walker Dewar, I think, would be a great guy to bring back, because much like this year, he could spend the whole year on the Moose and just be a good player for the Moose. But if you need him in a pinch as your 13th forward or a fourth line guy, he's got the speed. He's got a little bit of the offensive creativity that you want to see. He can forecheck and just be a quality fourth line player in a pinch, right? Like, he's not coming in and playing with Cole Perfetti and being, the savior of the middle six sort of thing. He's also not the type of player, Huss, that's going to block a prospect, because if again, Brad Lambert is playing in the NHL next season, then Brad Lambert's going to play over a guy like Walker Dewar. He's not going, they can just send Dewar back down to the AHL. So I've been impressed with him too, especially over these 2 games against Grand Rapids. I've thought he's been one of, if not their best forwards in terms of creating chances and actually getting to the middle of the ice and using his speed to push back the defense and all of that stuff. So again, yeah, I mean, looking at the off season, maybe, Moose flies under the radar big time, especially on, we'll be talking about the Jets a lot, but Walker Dewar is a guy that if the Moose are going to have him back and the Jets can use him in a pinch, I think they'd love to do that.
I will admit, I watched him on the weekend and thought, with everything that we just watched through 82 games, how did we not see him for a few? But again, we don't need to relitigate everything that happened last week. Montreal. How?
Dude. So 9 shots on goal is the least ever in a playoff win. You see that? 9
also
shots
the
on goal.
least ever by any team, period,
in
a game 7.
Yeah.
And they won.
And last year, Edmonton beat Dallas, or it might have been 2 years ago. Edmonton beat Dallas in game 6 with 10 shots on goal to punch their ticket to the Stanley Cup final. And those 2 games very similar. Like, I think both of them were 2-1, just getting shelled. And like Jakub Dobeš, man, he was awesome. I mean, you have to be if your team only has 9 shots on goal, but he was incredible in that game. And it's even worse, Huss, when you take into account the context in which the 2 goals were scored by the Habs. The first one is Suzuki tipping a shot from the high slot that goes off of JJ Moser's knee, who's like 2 feet left of the net, and then goes past Vasilevsky. That's goal number 1. The second one is Lane Hudson, who's shooting it wide. Vasilevsky slides out and blockers it, and then Newhook's behind the goal line, and he just whacks it off of his back and in. And it's like, Suzuki tips a shot 2 feet wide. Oh, it bounces off a guy's shin pad and in. And then Newhook is batting a puck in from below the goal line. Like, they only had 9 shots, and the 2 goals they scored were awful, objectively awful goals. And Tampa Bay must be just thinking, and John Cooper especially after the gold medal game and now this, must be thinking like, what on earth am I supposed to do?
Well, and Remo, why don't you pull up a 3 box and get in here as well, because I'll ask you this as well. But, I mean, Tampa now all of a sudden has missed moving on to the second round 4 straight years. I had no idea that Kucherov had 0 points in previous game 7s and had another goose egg to last night. And you know what? He was mouthy. He was concerned with a lot of other things when maybe he needed to be a little bit more concerned with making that happen. Now, I did see the comments after Cooper's press conference where the Oiler fans had already gone in and mocked up. I mean, there's 0 chance, in my opinion, that the Tampa Bay Lightning would ever walk away from John Cooper. He's just been so good. But man, does this show the randomness of hockey and just how difficult it is to win. I mean, there is somewhat of a assumption that, well, you make a couple good moves and you should be there. Everyone's trying to do the same thing. And with a team and a roster like that played as well as they did, cannot get over the hump, it just shows you that sometimes it is not in the cards. And you add in that playoff voodoo from the Montreal Canadiens, and sometimes that is just unstoppable.
Yeah, exactly. The hockey gods are on their side, right? And look, I've seen a lot of the commentary coming out of this series too. Like, Montreal felt they should have won game 6. I'm totally on board with that. That was a 0-0 OT game. I thought Montreal was the better team. Vasilevsky steals that one. Dobeš steals game 7. But this series, Huss, was one of the closest series we've ever seen. Like, I think 5 of the games went to overtime. Every other game decided by a goal. This game 7, 2-1 regulation. The team that won had 9 shots on goal. So whoever lost this series going into game 7 would have felt cheated. They would have felt like, oh, this playoff format or whatever had us going up against a team that is one of the best in the East and we lost. So that's how Tampa's feeling. But if Montreal had lost this game, at least it would have been like, well, they only had 9 shots on goal, so they kind of deserved to lose game 7. But the series as a whole was one of the closest series we've seen in a very long time. Not only did it go 7 games, but every game was close down to the wire. And a lot of the games went to overtime as well. So that was an absolute banger of a first round playoff series. And I just hope that we can get another series that goes 7, goes the distance, and is as close as that one was.
Okay, Remo, come in here. And am I seeing correctly in the chat that this is episode 1290 of WST?
So on the description of the podcast and the thumbnail, I do put the number. Maybe like here and there I might have been 1 or 2 off. But yeah, today's is 1290. So people have been looking forward to this, counting down, asking for a suit show, which we did not do. I didn't even mention it to you. I don't know. It's just another show for me. Nothing significant about the number, Huss.
Well, that is excellent. Shout out to everyone, especially those of you that have been with us since show number 1. Hard to believe the numbers just keep on adding up even to a random number like 1290. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, it's the one thing I'll say. Like, I do think, we've done like over 1,000 shows. That's a lot of shows to be doing this for a long time. We just celebrated the 5th year anniversary. That was the significant one to me. Maybe show like 1,500. You get nice round numbers, but today's numbers just taking it one day at a time here.
Maybe it's the Jets fan in me that doesn't like the anniversaries. I mean, when you think about it, the 5th year anniversary was the year that the team missed the playoffs, ended up winning the lottery and getting the Line A pick. The 10-year anniversary was the COVID season. And the 15th anniversary was this season that we just experienced, which also ended up with the Jets on the outside looking in. So hopefully the next 4 years will be awesome until the 20th anniversary season. They make it happen. Well, listen, while I've got you guys here, let's get over to the Cool Bet lines, and we'll get your thoughts on a couple series that have not gotten underway as of yet. Want to mention to all of you that play at Cool Bet, before you make any wagers, make sure you go into the promotions tab. Top row, you'll see the two things that it is just an absolute no-brainer to enter in. There is the World Cup trip, the Watch Canada Soccer on the biggest stage. That one, you just click on it, make sure you are entered. And then the other one, and this is especially key for you golfers, Coolbet, once again, partnering with the PGA and putting on the RBC Scramble in Nova Scotia. Cabot Links, Cabot Cliffs, two of the top 3 courses in the country. They're going to be sending 4 dudes to it. So every time you wager $25, you get a ballot. And then it goes up. CFL, you'll get 3 times. Golf bets, you'll get 5 times the value. So simply all you got to do is just click on it, go in, and just you activate it, basically say that you are in, opt in, and then click it. And then for the rest of the summer, anytime you're betting, you'll be getting ballots for what will be dream golf trip of a lifetime to a bucket list place for pretty much any Canadian golfer. As far as, listen, before we get to tonight's games, let's just talk about these 2 series. Now, if you guys haven't looked at it, you guys can do Guess the Lines. I've seen this already. Connor and Remis, what do you think the series price is? Series odds on Buffalo, Montreal.
Reem, I'll let you go first on this one.
Sure, I'll say Buffalo minus 120.
Buffalo minus 120. How's it even money? Okay.
I'll go maybe a little bit longer. Buffalo minus 130, 135.
Pick'em. It was a pick'em earlier today, I should say. It was 109, 109. Buffalo now is just a slight favorite, minus 116 to minus 104. So very interesting. They do have home ice. I just cannot wait for this series. I think this is going to be theater. Usually, sometimes there's a bit of a drop-off in the second round. I will be the first to admit I'm not that excited to watch 3 more games of Carolina and Philly. Maybe 4 more. We'll see. But the Ducks Golden Knights are going at it tonight. Now, I have not looked at this one. Remo, what's your guess on Ducks Golden Knights?
Hey, Coolbet's got Buffalo minus 116, so I was pretty close.
Yeah, it just moved. Yeah, I mean, you're basically right there.
Oh, we're moving lines here on WST.
Got to give myself a pat on the back for that one. I'm going to say Vegas minus 160.
You know what? I was going to say basically the same thing. I think it's probably right around there.
You haven't seen it yet, Huss?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go minus 185 for Vegas.
185, a little bit more. And it is... Oh, wow. Minus 204.
Oh, wow. Not giving Anaheim a chance here. Wow.
Plus 166 for the Ducks. Well, Dennis had an interesting take earlier. I don't know if you see. Like, Edmonton was the one team that they could have played where they could do what they did in that series, play that style of play.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be a different story going up against Torts. But I'll tell you what, Q has, some absolute warriors on that blue line. Lacombe is incredible. He'll get a lot of Jack Eichel over the course of this series. And the Ducks can score goals. So, I don't know whether this is going to be a really short series. I do think Vegas probably wins it. But those are your series prices right now. Connor, what did you think about, for all these 0-0 games we've seen all week, how about that show the Avalanche and the Wild put on last night?
Yeah, between the AHL games over the weekend and then the Habs and the Lightning, it was like, wow, this was
Philly,
a lot of goals.
Pittsburgh earlier in Game 6 as well.
0-0, yeah. And even, the Tampa Bay Montreal Game 6 was 0-0 overtime. But that was unbelievable. Sign me up for 6 more games of Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar just absolutely dueling it out on the biggest stage in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And to me, Huss, Gary Bettman's, his playoff format, it says otherwise, but this is the Western Conference Final. If Colorado or Minnesota win, I think they're going to be a heavy favorite over Vegas or Anaheim. I think either of those teams could beat either of those teams. So to me, when we're watching Colorado, Minnesota, I'm treating it as a fan like the Western Conference Final. I think these are 2 unbelievable teams. And if Minnesota can get Joel Eriksson Ek back, that could be a game changer for them, because down the middle is where they're already weak and now he's out. But Colorado, they can score. They can really, really score. And that was on full display last night, putting up 9.
How worried should you be if you're a Wild fan, Reem? Or are we thinking that, hey, they had the short turnaround. They had to go in against the rested Avalanche. They showed that they were very much capable of getting through. The Wild are plus 170 in Game 2. I do not write them off at all in this series or in the second game, even on the road.
I was writing them off down 3-0 early, but I think they showed yesterday that they can go toe-to-toe with Colorado. Their defense, very strong with Quinn Hughes and Brock Faber. They're going to lean on those guys, getting some contributions. You know who impressed me? Ryan Hartman, who I hate.
Oh, God.
Who's actually, he's like point per game in the playoffs, and
such a rat.
Goes to the front of the net. Sorry, not point per game. He's 26 points in 40. I don't know. They said that yesterday, but the last year, he 6-6, and this year 5-7. So, and then 5-5 the year before, 5-6 the year before that. So, he's pretty much point per game the last 4 playoffs, and he goes to the front of the net, and he's got to play a big role with Joel Eriksson Ek out. And you saw him on that goal, go to the front of the net. He's mixing it up. That's the type of player that you need in the playoffs, as much as I hate saying that. But he's going to have to step it up even more without their number 1 center. And, Matt Boldy's carrying that line with Urov and Johansson. They got the top line with Zuccarello. They got him back from injury, and he really makes the power play goal. They struggled without him. But you got to love this Hughes Faber pairing. And how about, if you need a former Jet to cheer for in this series, Zach Bogosian. Can you believe that he's still going?
Amazing.
Has him and Evander Kane, some of the former Thrashers, still in the NHL, but Bogosian only 35 in the league, already a Cup champion with Tampa Bay, found a home there in Minnesota the last couple of years.
Great point on Bogo, still getting it done. Of course, Jacob Trouba playing with the Ducks tonight. Ducks Golden Knights tonight, Game 1. Vegas is minus 167. Anaheim plus 141. The early game today, just after 6 p.m., it's Game 2 between the Flyers and the Hurricanes. Carolina minus 233. Philly plus 195. I will be on the puck line in this game. Carolina to win by 2 plus 120 on the Hurricanes puck line. If you do want to put something together on today and tomorrow's games, Avalanche minus 200 tomorrow, Wild plus 170. I don't mind that number on Minnesota at all. And Game 1 in Buffalo, Sabres, Habs, Sabres minus 130, Montreal Canadiens plus 110. That wraps up the hockey part of it. Did you guys happen to pay attention to the Raptors on the weekend at all?
Yeah, that was unfortunate. I mean, well, Barrett, the game winner was awesome, but then the follow-up was unfortunate.
If the Kawhi play wasn't in Game 7 in a year that they ended up winning the championship, that shot, and if you missed it, folks, they're down. It's buzzer beater, long shot, hits the back and goes up, I think 22 feet or something like that in the air.
Yeah.
And came right down in the hoop. Just an absolute magic moment. And, obviously locked in on the Habs Lightning game. Soon as that was over, we got one of the TVs on the Raptors. And Connor, they were right in that game at halftime. It was 49-all. And, the demise of the Raptors really came down to the start of the second half. Cleveland went on a quick 10-0 run or 11-1, and all of a sudden it was a 10-point lead, and they just couldn't get back into it. Ended up getting away on them. But I'll say this, for a team that was missing two of their best players, to hang in, get to Game 7, and go toe-to-toe, if you're a Raptor fan, I think you got to be pretty proud of the way that they played. And for a team that was sort of written off the last couple of years, I mean, they avoided the play-in, they got in, and were right there with a good Cleveland squad. So I think some good things are coming up for the Raptors, but they certainly acquitted themselves well.
Yeah, and they have a relatively younger team, right? Like Scotty Barnes is still a young player, and he's going to be the franchise superstar, you hope. But I think you bring up a great point there. Like going into this season, the expectation for the Raptors was either missing the playoffs or they were going to be in the play-in again for like the third straight year, kind of 8th to 10th range in the East. But hey, they get out of the play-in. They don't even have to play in those games this year. They get to the 4-5 matchup against Cleveland. And then in this first round, I don't think people gave them much of a chance going into it either. So to push it to 7, albeit with some luck with RJ Barrett's shot going 22 feet in the air and then dropping in Game 6, is ultimately a good year for the Raptors, who, like I said, are a younger team. They're going to be looking to build around Scotty Barnes, but this is a good experience for them, and hopefully they can parlay this into more in the future and build around this team, because much like the Blue Jays last year when they went on their World Series run, when the Raptors are good, and in 2019, and when they're going on deep playoff runs, it feels like all of Canada gets behind them. So I would love to see that.
The final 8th set in the NBA. Here are your series. Pistons, who came back from down 3-1. They're taking on the Cavs. Pistons minus 130. Cleveland plus 106. The Knicks got the job done. They'll take on the Sixers. How about that choke from the Celtics? Losing the final 3, including Game 5 and 7 at the Garden. Tough week for Boston sports fans. The Red Sox are terrible. The Bruins are out. Now the Celtics are out. Knicks minus 278. Sixers plus 218. OKC Thunder and the Lakers. Oklahoma minus 2,500. They do not believe in LeBron and his ability to win one on his own. No Luka. Lakers 10-1 plus 1,000. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves, after their big win over the Nuggets, they're going at it with the Spurs. Spurs minus 476 and the T-Wolves plus 350. 2 games tonight to get things going. Knicks 7.5-point favorites at home against the Sixers, and the Spurs 9.5-point favorites at home against the T-Wolves. Remo, one other thing that kind of hit me on the weekend that angered me was the fact that I'm glad that I stayed because I wanted to watch those Moose games. But I don't know. I guess I was just planning. I always have the contingency plan that hopefully we'll be busy around Winnipeg in May. But it would have been a nice weekend to go down with a lot of Winnipeggers and Manitobans to see the Jays series in the Twins against the Twinkies. They ended up splitting that 4-gamer 2-2.
Yeah, I saw Trey Savage back for the Jays. George Springer, came back last week, and then he got kind of injured. He's still banged up with the broken foot. So, early here in May, it is always nice seeing, the Jays on the road, the fans that they get in Minnesota and in Seattle as well. So, how are the Jays? What are they up at the standings here? As
16 and 18 right now.
Okay, so that's
we hope they can get to 500 by the 40-game mark, and then get healthy and go from there. The Blue Jays actually starting a series tonight in Tampa against the Rays. Let me just get this one up and tell you what we're looking at. Jays plus 102, Rays minus 125. Pitching matchup tonight is Eric Lauer against Martinez, who's had a nice start for the Tampa Bay Rays. So that'll be on tonight. We got 2 hockey games and, of course, 2 NBA games as well. So even though we're done with the glory of round 1 with often 4 games at night, there's still a lot of good stuff moving forward. It's all up at CoolBet right now. Don't forget to opt in for the Cabot trip and the soccer trip. Totally free to opt in, and you'll get ballots when you bet over at CoolBet. If you haven't played there before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Connor, did you see the Steve Simmons clip? I
did.
Press conference?
Yeah, it's all over Twitter. I mean, you can't escape it. Yeah,
absolutely incredible. Pelly was just, I mean,
okay.
Can you imagine being like a fly on the wall once that press conference was ended and they were out of public sight, what they were saying about that? But
for sure,
good on Cy, man. You want to talk about a guy that does not hold back and has the juice of being there for decades to say that. I doubt we'll have more of a heater in any sports press conference maybe all year long than that.
I liked Mike's analogy. That's Mason Miller 103 up and in on the hands right there. That is up and in fastball. But there's a lot of discussion around that clip, but this hiring is controversial. So I think it could have been presented a little bit better. Obviously, I'm not an established, multi-decade journalist.
How could it have been presented any better? To me, that was
better
perfect.
In terms of taking the edge off a little bit. Not better in terms of if you want the high up and in heat. Yeah, he did that for sure. But man, there's a lot of controversy around Chayka and why he was, he quit on the Coyotes and then the combine thing. And he's not a well-respected guy around the league. So I think it's a valid question. And it was a heater for sure.
Well, as I said, there'll be a lot coming out of that. We'll have to get one of our friends out in TO to talk about the aftermath of that hiring right now. One other interesting thing that I heard on 32 Thoughts today is that I guess the Pierre Dorion is interviewing for the Canucks job. And listen, I feel sorry for Pierre because I thought he was put in a pretty tough situation working for Eugene Melnyk over those years. But many people have kind of accused him of being sort of the owner's lapdog, which, of course, has made many people think, well, he'd be perfect to work for the Aquilini's ream, considering the way they've handled their business over a number of years. That's going to be really interesting to see what happens in Vancouver because that is a team that is at a real crossroads. They've sort of bottomed out. They're going to have a top 3 pick this year. But after such a miserable season and so much just anger really in the market with that team, and that's the case with Canucks fans. They're insane to begin with. Even when things are good, they are looking for reasons to be miserable. But there's a lot of reasons to be miserable in Vancouver right now. And that is a major, major fix-it job on that franchise considering where they finished this year.
Yeah, this is a big week for them announcing the next general manager, whenever that may be. We've already seen Sonny Mehta in New Jersey and John Chayka today. How will Vancouver counter? But also the draft lottery tomorrow at 6 p.m. Well, that's when the broadcast starts. They usually drag it out for an hour. And if Vancouver gets the number 1 overall pick, which they have pretty good odds to do that could certainly be franchise changing. And I liked the move that they made for Quinn Hughes, getting some picks and some prospects. Could that be the start of a rebuild and a path towards relevancy? I think it's going to take a while for the Canucks here, but getting that number 1 overall pick would be a big boost for that.
One other thing on Chayka, and I mentioned this on the Lock Shop earlier today, Remo, but he's supposed to be, a big analytics guru, big numbers guy. If he was really, apparently I learned today that he's got 60 Wendy's, which actually made me more of a fan of his and said maybe I was too hard on this guy. But then it got me thinking, if he has that many Wendy's and he's that much juice and he's an analytics guy, the fact that they never made the bacon mushroom melt a permanent part of the menu is egregious. To use a hockey analogy, That's like taking your best player. That's like Connor McDavid and playing him 10 minutes a night. We've said for many years that burger should be available far more than just 6 or 7 weeks after Christmas when people are trying to stay away from fast food to lure them back. But it raises even more questions about John Chaika's management skills if we didn't get more of the bacon mushroom melt during his time running 60 Wendy's.
100%. I'll tell you, if I was in that press conference, I would have said, why is the bacon mushroom melt not a permanent menu item? It's better than the Baconator. I don't know what they're doing. And I agree with you, Huss. It makes you question, if that's the big decision from Wendy's, it makes you question his ability to evaluate hockey talent. And it is exactly like playing Connor McDavid 10 minutes a night, only having the bacon mushroom melt on the main menu for 3 of 12 months a year, maybe 1 of 12. It's disgusting and does raise a lot of eyebrows.
Yeah, well, maybe the people at Wendy's, if Chaika's now going to be busy, not with Wendy's, but with the Toronto Maple Leafs, maybe we can have a true visionary go in and take over as the GM or the VP of burger operations with Wendy's, and we can get that damn burger on the menu 12 months a year.
I don't know what they're doing, but if it was Chaika, now his eyes will be diverted elsewhere, and someone else can swoop in and be the hero and make the bacon mushroom melt a regular menu item.
Play your best players, everybody. Come on.
Simple. It's simple. Play your stars.
While we're at it, I do want to add on. We did get some news from NHL player safety. How many games do you think Ridley Greig got?
Oh, that's already happened?
They just announced it like 10 minutes ago.
Okay, I'm saying either 3 or 4.
I was going to say 3.
You know what?
Season.
Because he's on Ottawa, much like they gave Scheifele the 4, I'm going to say it's actually 4 because he's on Ottawa. If he was on another team, it probably would have been 2 or 3.
He got 2 regular season games
2?
for reffing Sean Walker. And now the next one is Charlie McAvoy. How many games for his two-handed overhand slash to the arm of Zach Benson? And look, this was in response to a slew foot. Could have paralyzed him. They were skating to the boards. It was absolutely disgusting act. And I know people are going to point to other stuff McAvoy did throughout the series. I can only speak on the act itself. But we saw Ryan Hartman get only a fine for intentionally slashing Cole Perfetti in the face. And, he got stitches for that. This was a two-handed slash on the arm. Benson wasn't injured. It was actually pretty safe retaliation. I mean, he could have slashed him in the head. Could have really done some serious damage. So I applaud Charlie McAvoy. He's had head injuries this year. He doesn't want to put up with this bullshit anymore. He's sick of it. It was a very safe retaliation. Maybe a game. I would give him a fine if I was head.
It's in-person hearing.
It's just for show. It's just for show.
Well,
you can do in-person and do nothing, which we've seen.
Listen, I can't really speak fairly on this. I love Zach Benson too much and want a Zach Benson on our team too much. I'm willing to take the anger and vitriol. That shot, Connor, was so hilarious. Of him skating along the boards, it's 4-1, it's just to be done, smirking, and like the entire Bruins team going after him, and then over the top.
Yeah,
I mean the best tomahawk chop we've seen in the league all year long.
Yeah, like Benson, and you can see the linesman trying to protect him. I can see all the Bruins players are coming for him, and then McAvoy just full two-hand swing, right into the chest, arm of Zach Benson, whatever. That was crazy. But again, Benson, Doan, these guys on Buffalo, they're maybe not the biggest players, but they play with that bite, that edge. And Benson probably crossed the line, that, as Remo was saying there, with the slew foot beforehand. But McAvoy, man, wow, he got his money's worth. If he doesn't get suspended, he definitely got his money's worth for that slash.
Well, he's definitely getting suspended, but the question will be, will it be 4 or 5 games just because of how bad it looked?
Remis doesn't think.
I'll be honest, the Ben cross-check to the head. And what was the other one? Who else got fined for a cross-check? Was it Kucherov? Someone else got fined in the playoffs for a cross-check to the head. I don't know. Like McAvoy is pretty safe play. No one got injured, so they always go by the result. They always go by the result. He went for the arm. Look, if he wanted to go for the head, he would have hit him in the head. He showed restraint on that play, I thought.
What a way to end the show today.
We need a screenshot of McAvoy like fully just winding up safe play.
Yeah, as Remis is making his passionate argument in support of Charlie McAvoy.
It's like Happy Gilmore. Here comes the putter throw. Wait, he restrained himself. He only hit his arm. Like they got padding. They got an elbow pad there. Totally. It's like when you're a pitcher and you want to hit a guy, you hit him where they got the padding on the elbow pad. It was pretty safe.
Didn't go in the head. Didn't go in the head.
Look,
although it was an over the top. I mean, I don't know how much ground his stick covered going to make the assault on Zach Benson. But I'll tell you what, Zach Benson laughing all the way to the second round along with the Buffalo Sabres. Big day tomorrow, draft lottery. We'll talk about that. By the way, if you want to bet, I just noticed this was on over at CoolBet. If you go to NHL playoffs, or go to futures, I should say, NHL draft, Jets 12-1 to select the first overall pick. So if you do want to throw 5 or 10 on some good luck for the squad tomorrow, you can get that up. What do you have? 6.5% chance of getting it done. So Jets 12-1 tomorrow. We'll be talking lots about that. Maybe firing up a little stream for instant reaction tomorrow as well. Make sure to join us at 1 o'clock, though. We'll get ready for the lottery. We'll have much more on the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. Game number 1 of Buffalo and Montreal. Cannot wait for that one. So make sure to join us. Great stuff today, though. Thanks again to Mike McIntyre, Dennis Bernstein, Dan Fink, Connor Rabchak for jumping on. Of course, Remo doing a great job getting us on and off the air. And, of course, a big thanks to all of our sponsors. And, again, shout out Tristan Rivers. Unbelievable time on Friday night. And a special thanks to all the WST crew that came out to support. It was great to see you all there. That is going to do it for us. Enjoy the games tonight. And make sure to join us as we count down to tomorrow's draft lottery, 1 p.m. live on YouTube and later on the afternoon on your podcast feed right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a good one, everyone.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.